Hey guys, welcome to a sidecast, or I guess this is technically 2 weeks away off from our preview cast of the fall 2022 anime season that we did. But since the entire fall season, it has not borne its brunt, bear down upon us yet, right? With its full fury, we decided to take some time off. Again, this also kind of links back to the 200 episode celebration that we unfortunately I didn't get to carry out at the time, but we are finally kind of doing a more personal episode. Just take some time, and this time we are talking about anime that change the way we our perspective, our I want to say the way we view anime at the very least, if not even more than that. So, anyways, again, I am your host Spire here with me are my compatriots Neer,
Hello.
Dark,
Hi.
and Toast.
What?
Yeah. So this is the 1st of October here on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at the eastern coast of the United States. So we are smack dab in the middle of fall. And again, we're talking about anime that have impacted the way we view anime or maybe even change our lives, whatever. Just impactful stuff. And we each have 3 series that we are choosing from to talk about today. We're just going to go pretty much round by round. We're each going to say one of our stuff, and second, then third, and then we're just going to kind of mull over it. And again, because we all do have our sort of varying degrees of anime history, I guess watching history, right? We're not all just like from the same anime club or whatever. Uh,
I
I
don't
do
know
think
who
it's going to be
any of
quite
you
interesting.
guys are.
Yeah, who are you? But yeah, so I think it's going to be quite interesting. But I do want to start off just by going over each person and just kind of having a brief talk about what we think we
What
mean.
anime means to us? All right.
I mean, like a very general description of like,
Is an
uh,
anime.
uh, yeah, what is an anime? But I want to have a general description of when we first created this idea for this roundtable discussion, and we're like, okay, well, let's talk about anime that impacted our perspective, maybe even impacted our lives. What does that mean more specifically? Because obviously we can kind of wax
All
poetic,
right.
but how do we come across this? So I want to start off with Dark. So what is like when we first started on this idea and we had to choose anime, right? To fit this podcast, what was kind of going through your head?
What got
Um,
you into anime
well,
in the
as
first
someone
place?
who has only started watching anime in 2014,
Uh-huh.
no. So kind of like I guess like what probably got me started was either DBZ or Yu-Gi-Oh. Realistically, I mean
Mhm.
Pokemon kind of as well. And while they weren't considered anime, that kind of like bled into the Toonami block, which led
Mhm.
into Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho. Those are kind of like my two big ones until like Naruto started up. And I think like
Mhm.
that is what I was discussing earlier. I consider to be like the first like mainstream anime that like everyone knew about and like talked about, but also actually considered like this is an anime, right?
Mhm.
Because it was past that. I think there's like a weird like generational like start, I guess, for us in some sense with like you look at even like early JRPGs and like old Final Fantasy games or Nintendo games or even like the Super Nintendo to begin with, and it's like not really something that people cognitively connect with like, oh, this is like a Japanese based like thing.
Mhm.
Because
Um,
back then they usually westernized the names of Japanese RPGs, like Dragon Quest. Back in my day, we all called it Dragon Warrior. It's like, yeah, because Dragon Quest was it copyright for a while until freaking 8. Then they got it back to Dragon Quest. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to try and sell it to the West, you got to change up the name. Why do you think we have bad box art Mega Man and angry Kirby, because us Americans are hardcore like that.
Oh yeah, and like the male Samus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was also a classic. Or not the male. No, it wasn't a male Samus. It was Samus in the suit with with like swimsuit like chicks on her. Little did they know. But yeah, so that was kind of like what I guess got me started. Now, did you want me to go
Right.
right into my first sort of series?
No, I just want to kind of go over people and just kind of get a top level view is sort of what I want to uh get. So I guess I'll go next, and I guess in this way I can clarify sort of what I was what I was thinking about. But it's so I had a relatively, I wanted to say, disjointed anime watching history. Obviously, I wasn't like
What does that
born
even
in
mean?
the 80s or anything like that. Um I was born in the 90s, but in I some of the first stuff that I can remember as a kid again was just like the super younger stuff, right? Like through Korean at the time. I wasn't listening to like 4Kids English stuff yet, but in Korean it was like um Pokemon stuff, or like reading Pokemon Special or Pokemon Adventures as it was called, right, in Japan.
Were those
Japan.
also in Korean?
Yeah, they had it translated into Korean at the time. They had that the Yellow Arc, right? Reading that,
I
a little
mean,
bit of
the
like stuff
advent
like
was it
Sailor Moon. What?
Pokemon: The Adventures of Pikachu or something? What's it called?
No, it was like a specific. There was like
Pikachu's Electric Tail. Is that it?
no.
Electric
No.
Tail of
So
Pikachu.
you know what Pokemon Adventure is, right? Where it's like it has like Red, like traveling and doing stuff, right? With like his Poliwhirl and like Bulbasaur and stuff like that. Um, it's like an extension of that, but with Yellow, they brought in like a second, like I guess deuteragonist, right?
Not this.
That was. Give me a second here. Hmm, what the hell?
You've
Pokemon the
never
Electric.
seen this?
I think that might be the Pokemon. This is sort of what I
Or is
was.
this a
Oh,
different
what the
one?
hell?
Because this is the one I know.
Yeah, this is the one I was talking about. Sort of. Give me a second. Onto this stuff. Why did this break? This is so stupid.
I've never
Oh
seen
yeah,
this.
I know
I've
what
never
this one
seen
is.
this.
I've seen both of
Really?
these.
You
Yeah,
haven't seen this?
I've never seen this.
this is
This
old.
one. This one.
This
This one.
is before Electric Tail of Pikachu.
Yeah, I've never
Neer,
I've
you've
never seen
never
this.
seen this? Oh,
No.
that's so weird.
Is it
That's-
good?
It's pretty good.
It's honestly, I would say this is like the best storytelling Pokemon has gotten.
This
But
is
it's like
the
it's obviously not as good now because it's like doing like the same shit over and over again and just kind
Yeah.
of doing it for stuff.
this is the
But like
ongoing one, right?
yeah, this is
Yeah,
the ongoing one. But
this
like
is
back
one.
in the red, green, blue, and the yellow, and like maybe even like the gold, silver, crystal stuff. Honestly, it was like the best storytelling Pokemon has gotten. But
Right.
This is the one where that freaking eyeball gets cut in half. That was cool.
yeah.
And
So I read like my first one was actually getting into I got into the yellow version, which was kind of like the Digimon Tamers of like this series. It was like the
Right.
weird, like fucked up version. And then I went back into like red, green, blue. But anyways, that aside, so I was in that sort of stage. I watched some like stuff like Sailor Moon or whatever.
who's your favorite
And
Sailor
then
Scout?
what?
Who's your favorite Sailor Scout? This determines everything about you.
My
Yeah.
favorite
It's
seller.
like fucking astrology signs, you know?
I mean, the only character I like really like period in terms of like the
Uh-oh.
I
Hot
don't know
take
if I even like
incoming.
I don't know if I even like said I liked. I kind of just watched it because it was on the TV. You know what I mean?
You are
But
not
like
you are not about to
You're
you are not
stalling. You're
about to slander
stalling.
Sailor Moon.
You're stalling. Keep going.
No, I'm not slandering, but it's like as a kid, I'm just like watching. You know how it's like Sailor Moon has like things that are not necessarily like for children, right? But it's like it's kind of there because of Sailor Moon, right? So like as a kid, like I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like so I just like watching this, but like the only character I remember from that time is Usagi.
Oh my
Yeah.
Actually,
god. Oh my god.
Hey man, fair enough.
yeah,
My
but
favorite, Sailor Mars.
yeah. Wrong to say. A lot of people like Mars, to be
Of
honest,
course,
and
everyone
a
likes
Venus.
Mars.
Some people like Venus too.
Who likes
But
Mercury?
anyway,
She's the nerd with glasses.
I do.
yeah.
Nice.
But anyways,
How about you,
that
Neer?
is
I'm I'm
I
a Sailor
mean,
Moon fan, bro. I like Sailor Moon.
watched fucking Rurouni Kenshin. He had a sword, and it was cool.
But
Were you
Girls,
guys?
yucky.
Do you guys remember the live action Sailor Moon parts after each episode?
Yeah.
there's also a
That's
lot
so
of
weird.
like clips, or at least like when I was like younger, there was like a lot more clips on YouTube of like um Prince Diamond, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Who?
The fucking the evil guy, the I don't know which Sailor Moon he was. Prince Diamond? Diamondo or
Who?
whatever?
I remember the dude's named after freaking like minerals, like zoisite. Is that him?
Apparently he's in Diamond Sailor Moon. Try searching for that. But yeah.
Oh, this
Anyways.
guy, the Nigga
Yeah, yeah,
Moon.
yeah.
Oh Jesus.
What
Yeah.
did you
This guy
say?
was
What, Prince Negamoon? I remember him.
Oh,
Oh man.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. He did no.
Holy
We didn't become
I
didn't
thought-
become the clan podcast.
Hey,
Holy
listen.
That's not what
shit,
happened
I
yet.
just
No.
thought, I
Toast
just
knows.
thought Toast came out.
Toast knows.
Just
No. Toast knows what
absolutely
he's talking about.
threw that out there. Had a
Went full
fucking
clan,
Bill
yeah.
Maher moment. Like,
Full clan. Yeah,
holy
for a second.
shit.
But yeah. But getting back to the conversation, or getting back to
Sailor Moon
mine.
R and the Negamoon. Jesus.
Yeah.
Spire.
The point I was getting to was that it was disjointed. Like I kind of had these like series that I watched as a kid, but for a long time, I just like pretty much didn't really have any like anime, manga, cartoon stuff at all, just because I was kind of trying, or my parents forced me to be a very studious, like the stereotypical like Asian kid, no real like games or anything like that, like take away my Game Boy, whatever. And then later on, some when everybody was kind of going through like their emo rock, goth rock phase in like middle school and like high school, freshman kind of that stuff, I got introduced back to like anime again, and I started reading through some stuff, and I went through some older stuff. Um, the people that like recommended me some of the stuff were like kind of like again like they're like goth girls, and they like some of the shoujo stuff, and they like some of the action stuff
Bro,
and stuff like
you
that,
should have
right?
Bro, can you
gotten
introduce?
in, dude.
And it was like I got introduced to stuff like when I came back. I initially got introduced to stuff like Immortal Rain, Immortal Methuselah, if everybody knows that
What?
series.
Man.
Jesus.
I got introduced to Black Cat, and then I also got
Uh-huh.
introduced to
Do you like the
Kaicho
Black
Maid
Cat?
Sama.
Do you like the Black Cat anime or manga better?
Manga is definitely better. Manga is so
You
much
sure?
better.
Are you
I
sure?
am sure.
All
I am
right.
sure.
Making sure, because
Yeah.
Black Cat anime sucks.
Yeah.
The first part sucks, but the end part, ugh.
Yeah. But that, and then that kind of also kind of got me to watch some of the older stuff. Obviously, watching Klana later on, and then being like, oh, that was from like a game. Like, what the hell was that about? That also got me interested in like visual novels, and that kind of expanded my stuff. So it's a little bit of like a disparate history where I kind of had like clumps of like watching, and that I kind of remember stuff from like different like weird like periods of my time. But then I slowly got used to this as I obviously started reviewing more anime. So a lot of a bulk of my anime is also kind of like from that period where it kind of restarted onwards, as well as kind of going back and watching some of the old stuff. But when I'm saying what's the most impactful anime to me, I have a vision of like it's not that discussion is a little bit different from whether an anime is mainstream or niche or whether it's good or a bad series, where a series can be really, really, really good, but I don't necessarily include it in this discussion of about it being impactful because it didn't necessarily change my perspective and go, oh, this is how animes can be made, or this is how animes are being made now. So in terms of like, so good examples would be like Hyoka. Like I wouldn't like Hyoka is one of my favorite series, but I'm not gonna be like, wow, like that was an impactful series because it didn't really change the way I thought about anime. Same with something like Cowboy Bebop, where it's a good series, it's a great series, but it doesn't change the way I think about how anime um, is made or how people are doing it from that point onward or whatever. So
Here's a
that's
hot
sort of the
take
metric
from
I'm going.
me. I never liked Cowboy Bebop. I preferred Outlaw Star.
I think Outlaw Star was also good, but I mean,
Like
obviously,
it was the
yeah,
same time frame of, oh, I love my space adventures, and I was like,
yeah, it
Cowboy
was
Bebop. It's like
escapism at its finest.
this is
Yeah,
too noir and boring for me. I like Outlaw Star. They're going on cool space adventures with
yeah,
crafters
I think
ships.
Cowboy Bebop's pacing is definitely
It
very
was. I'll just
unique.
say it
So
was too intellectual for me.
I
too
don't
And
intellectual.
I don't condone this.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's sort of my overview. Again, I'm not necessarily going to be talking about good versus bad or like mainstream versus niche or whatever, or like, whoa, boom. Like, that's not, it's just about something that changed my perspective. That's it. So, yeah. Anyways, Neer, if you want to kind of give a basic overview.
Yeah, so um unlike the Americans here, uh I'm Canadian, right? So I did not have
near,
I didn't have tsunami.
you didn't have like sunny weather and stuff like that either,
Yeah.
near. You can't say
First of
that.
all, I
Most
never
anime was
experienced
dubbed in
summer
Canada.
as a child. I never felt warmth at all.
Yeah.
But also we did not have tsunami. There was no such thing as tsunami. There
Right,
was,
right.
That's weird because most anime was dubbed from Canada.
yeah.
Like, how do you not
There
have it over there?
was, for us there was Teletoon. There was Teletoon. There was Teletoon. And like, well, so Teletoon like past like 9 o'clock, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It went through a few different brands, but it was like Teletoon After Dark. There was the Detour. You know, there was a lot of really dumb stuff, right? But usually anime would only play after 9 o'clock, right? And so I, as a young lad, didn't get to watch a lot of anime on TV, right?
Right.
And the few anime that was showing for kids was stuff like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, you know, and a lot of people didn't really see those as anime. You know what I mean? They were kind of just cartoons, right? And so the only like as I was growing up for a long time, the only like anime that I was kind of like cognizant was like, you know, actual Japanese media that I would watch on TV was Inuyasha. Um, Inuyasha was like the one show that I was able to stay up late and watch, right? But interestingly, like before that, I as a kid was obsessed with Godzilla, right? I had like pretty much every single Godzilla movie imaginable on VHS. I had a shitload of the old Kamen Rider Black stuff on VHS. So like I wasn't.
Man, you got Kamen Rider Black. We got Masked Rider over here.
Yeah. Mine were not dubbed. So, but yeah.
Near, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite Godzilla character? Is it Godzuki?
No,
Hey,
it's
you want to know a completely sad aside?
Yeah.
I didn't start watching Kamen Rider until Drive came out.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like I wasn't like you know, Japanese media and stuff wasn't like an alien thing to me as a kid. You know, I quite liked it. It's just that we didn't really get access to anime in Canada, right? The anime that like I had growing up, like that ever really showed on TV was again Inuyasha, Sailor Moon, which I also liked a lot as a kid, And like every once in a blue moon, you'd get like an episode of Full Metal Alchemist, right? The original one.
Mhm.
And so for me, like anime wasn't really a thing until Naruto came out, right? And Naruto was huge, right? Naruto was absolutely massive. Everyone in school loved Naruto. I love Naruto. Like we all, like you
Yeah.
would talk about it like every week
Like
as soon
for
as
all
you
the
knew.
shit that we give Naruto right now, every one of us here had like loved Naruto for a significant period of time, including
I
myself.
still
And
do.
I
I
think
still love
yeah,
Naruto.
yeah, yeah. I think
I
anybody who says
preferred
that
Bleach.
at the very least they didn't have at least a significant period, they are lying to themselves.
Yeah.
What's the best part of Naruto back then? I like the what is it? The
Rock
Zanza
Lee.
arc.
Rock Lee, Gara. Rock Lee,
Yeah.
Gara.
I mean, Chunin exams and the hidden mist are like
Yeah.
the peak
That's
of
fair.
Naruto. Obviously,
Yeah.
those are like that's like the beginning of this series.
Yeah,
But
but anyways, yeah.
but yeah. So after Naruto, I really didn't watch very much
Uh-huh.
anime up until I'd say like the 2010s. Yeah, like mid 2010s. I'd say a little bit. Like I had watched, series here and there, right? I had watched some stuff just casually, but I didn't really like get into anime, I'd say probably until Kill the Kill. I think Kill the Kill was a huge like
Mhm. I
resurgence
think
in just
also
like
a lot of 2011 through 2013, 2014. Again, it's like a sort of transition period. I think was also a huge boom in terms of like a lot of series that came in, a lot of series that ended up being
yeah.
hits, a lot of people that came in during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after 20, I think it's like 2012ish, 2013, I really got into anime again. Kill la Kill came out. I really liked Kill la Kill. I still really like Kill la Kill.
What
Um,
those good series?
yeah, and then obviously, I started diving deeper into anime. I started getting more into, a lot of the older stuff because I
Mhm.
remembered liking Inuyasha. I went back. I watched almost all of Urusei Yatsura on a really shitty like 100p like virus-filled streaming site.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
And this the donkey P2P or whatever happened to download that
yeah,
shit.
just
Ugh.
garbage. Um, but yeah, that was sort of like the start of my journey, and through that I discovered a lot of like, I got into a lot of the older stuff. And I was young too. Like I was like 14, 15
Mhm.
maybe. But
Mhm.
like yeah, like discovering all these old series, and then um through that I guess I'll just get into my definition of like what this list means to me, and it's sort of like because you know I've watched a lot of shit, right?
Mhm.
And I can say, you know, through my like consumption of anime, like there's obviously a lot of series that I'm a huge fan of. Like I'm a pretty obsessive over it, right? But in terms of like saying stuff that like changed my like perspective on anime, it is similar to Spire's, where my definition is sort of it's not so much just like series that I think are big or huge that like really sort of um make waves in the industry. It's more of
Mhm.
like series that I watch where I could really see the creator, right? See the people behind the anime and sort
Mhm.
of connect with them, right?
Yes,
Through
yes.
what they're
And you're
trying
like, "Oh,
to
they're doing a specific message. They have a specific philosophy." And it's
yeah.
like different from last time,
And
and it's like
it's
different from what I know. Yeah.
it's sort of like people that are taking a medium that I'm, used to consuming as just a general like entertainment medium and using it to portray personal messages or, you know, portray messages that for like some people like they just don't even some people just make things purely for like their own like for themselves, like even if
Right.
nobody else gets it, even if
Right.
like nobody else understands the meaning behind it, like it's something that they want to create, right? And
Mhm.
for me, like when you watch like a series like that, or just really any project like that, it really changes the way you sort of look at the medium, right? And for me, it's like, can I see the people behind the project, right? Can I feel the passion behind the project? And does that message and passion like speak to me on a way that sort of changes my outlook on how I view the entire medium and sort of just the landscape of creators sort of taking a project into their hands and, you know, doing something with it beyond,
Mhm.
beyond source material, even if
Right, right.
even if it is an adaptation, right? People can take something and really make it personal. And I
And
think
that
for
used
me
to be a
that's
much bigger thing, I think, before again, sort of the meme that was once like portrayed and stuff like Siren I suppose I say that one scene again that I keep talking about where it's like, oh, don't blame me, I just did a homage, right? Or whatever
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
This was before a lot of that sort of really became a thing, and it was like, we're just gonna do straight adaptations because if we do something weird and we fuck it up, then people will hate us. And so
Yeah, it's not as common anymore. But it is definitely still like there are still series to be found where stuff like that happens. But yeah, for me this list is more of like stuff that I see where it's a team of people or sometimes just one person creating something that I think like stands the test of time, not only on just a visual medium format, but just as like a piece of art, basically.
mhm.
Um, is sort of how I view this list. Because
Right, right.
I didn't want to make a top three, because otherwise it would just be like you know three shows that I really like. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I did want to make a list that was like more creator focused, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's definitely a very, I think, valuable perspective to have. And we'll again get to your series in turn. And again, thank you very much, Neer. What about you, Toast? Do you want to just
What?
give us kind of a top level idea of like kind of what was going through your head when we initially came up with this idea?
When you came up with the idea, my thought was, all right, I'm just gonna pick 3 anime
Hmm.
during 3 different periods of my life.
Hmm.
One was the obvious one, back when anime was still not really anime, but Saturday morning cartoons over here in the West, which
Ah,
has been
okay.
mentioned before. Like, I believe it was because the first ones that I remember that were shown on TV was obviously Dragon Ball, Pokemon, and even Sailor Moon, but they were not on Toonami or whatever. This was the earlier time before they were on. I think like the WB, was that the channel or the Fox channel
Oh
before?
yeah,
Oh
the
yeah, Kids
WB. Yeah.
WB.
Kids
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
WB for kids, yeah.
like
they had
no,
Mega Man NT Warrior on that too.
yeah, it's like
Wild.
back then with my brothers. We watched that stuff with my dad before he went to school, and I was like, that. I guess that's a cool bonding moment we had when
Mhm.
we were kids. Then a couple of years later, we got a more DBZ on was it Toonami? Toonami, and it's like we're gonna get past the Frieza arc finally. That introduced us to because back then it was the Ocean dub, I believe. Was it the Ocean dub?
I'm not sure
I
actually.
believe it was Ocean dub, right? Or the Saban dub, whatever people want to call it. And then, but after that, then we got the two. This is obviously Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. It's like, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh's cool. Pokemon's cool. Pokemon the first movie, that's all right. And then that would lead up to Toonami stuff. Toonami being I guess my late elementary, middle school of anime. It's like, oh, cool. Year two, we're finally getting proper. We're finally getting past the one episode of the Frieza arc. Was it the Frieza? Or no, it was a. It's when Goku comes out of the out of the healing machine, and he's finally
Yeah.
gonna finally beat up Raccoon and Berta and all that. That's the first taste we had of Sean Schemmel and the like. And it's been stated before, but the tsunami block, that's a major part of anime history, where a lot of anime became mainstream and not just Saturday morning cartoons. Rurouni
Mhm.
Kenshin, um, Gundam Wing. No one's mentioned that yet. And that was the Gundam came out earlier, but it was a weird ass dub. But a Gundam Wing was when Gundam became actually popular or more popular
I
in the
think the
West.
first Gundam that I ever saw on TV was Unicorn, and I
Unicorn
hated
showed
it.
on TV. What?
I think so, yeah.
I think the first one I saw might have been G.
G came after Wing. They went
Yeah, I
backwards.
know, but I don't think I actually ever watched like Wing when it came out.
It was first Wing and then G, and then somewhere around there is Always MS Team and the regular Gundam, which is,
Yeah.
that's cool and all. Apparently also War in the Pocket, Pocket, or whatever.
Mm.
Yu Yu Hakusho, all that. You know, good Toonami times. And that lasted up to maybe, I guess, I want to say 2007, 2006 ish. Is that when Toonami started to fade out?
Yeah,
I
so
sure. And then I guess after that is the second to last current arc of anime in my life, because anime started to suck after that. It's like, oh, it's just Toonami stuff, and I'm just floating around. Well, what else can I watch? And this is when I started to snip around those sites. Those hey, we've got these animes. Episode 1 in Japanese. Oh yeah, that's the big part. This is when I started to watch anime with subtitles.
oh
Like
shit.
no longer dubs.
Big
Words.
big boy time.
Hell
Yeah.
Big
yeah.
boy pants, yes.
Started to go on the sites, and I was like, oh cool. I didn't know anime was Japanese.
To
I've
be
only
fair, to
watched
be
them
Yeah,
in
fair,
did
dub.
you
Toast.
have a
No, I
did you
mean
have a
that's
phase
like an
where you
actual
were
realization. To be fair, yeah.
scrounging
I do
YouTube
remember
for
a lot
subtitles?
of a
It
lot of
wasn't YouTube.
people
It's
a lot of people in school didn't even know like Naruto was like a Japanese thing. Like
Yeah,
but I guess
so
it's more of a I've never seen real subs until then.
right,
right.
right.
Unless you want me to kind of like this janky ass Chinese. Was it Chinese subs? Because you could tell they were the hard yellow subs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from VHS that you
Yeah.
found at a freaking flea market in Little
Classic.
Tokyo. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, and then that's 2007 all the way to 2011, which I still call the modern era of anime.
The modern anime, yeah.
With because what 2011, 2012, 2013 is when anime started to become really modern.
Okay.
In the
Modern
same
plus
way,
one. Yeah.
yeah, like what SAO 2011. I'll always put SAO as a benchmark for modern anime, along with was it not Bible Black? What am I thinking? Madoka. That's also 2011.
Yeah, so similar. So
Yeah.
easy to get those
I'm not.
two.
What?
Yeah.
Not Bible Black. The other one.
Darker than black?
Was it Darker Than Black?
I mean, we could just start naming one. Was a Black Butler? Like we could
I-
just.
No.
What are
You
you
know,
which one are you thinking of? Like Electric Batman or what?
it's the one where I don't know. It's the generic dude in black and against the black city background. Psychopaths. Thank you.
Oh, okay. That's
Well, that's brutal. Okay,
It's in the
sure.
same. It's just in the
Jesus
same.
Christ.
It's in the same cinematic universe as
yeah.
Bible Black.
You
That's
know,
true.
at night, black Tokyo, like skyline, guys in black suits. Is this the same? No, it's when was the Matrix? Matrix was not 2011, was it? That's
No.
way back then.
Matrix was a bit earlier than 2011.
But yeah, that kind of, where am I going with this? That kind of thing. And I guess anime has pretty much stayed the same even now. It's been like what, 11 years? Do you
Well,
think
definitely.
I don't think anime has really changed past the SAO,
I
the
think the
SAO era,
I think the market has been pretty similar ever since like
pretty much.
20,
Yeah.
I don't think there were any
2011 to
big
20.
structural changes, except for I
Yeah.
think now, in my opinion, I think right now things are going through a potential structural change because it's getting warped by both the forces of, like visual novels died down pretty much 14,
Yeah.
15 anyways, but it's like both light novels, the influence of light novels and not visual novels, light novels and web novels really coming into power, like really like isekai series and stuff, just getting promotional series out the wazoo, and entire studios like White Fox making money off just making anime off of those alone. That plus the fact that studios like Studio Orange or whatever are coming up with better and better 3D technology. So I think on top of that, there's more digitalization and globalization forces going on, right? Where and paper and sort of physical stuff is just dying down compared to streaming and online and again digital subscription models and platforming, right? So I think those three forces are really affecting the structure of the anime industry right now, as well as the usual, like industry union kind of stuff going on. So
A funny parallel to this is that around this era, I'll say starting in 2009 is when another different Japanese show started to change the way they changed the formula a bit. I'm talking about Kamen Rider, because you notice from what, Kuga to Decade, everything was gray. There's a lot of gray in the
Yeah.
gray and dreary, and then after that, after Double, I want to say starting from Forza, really, but like you could see a gradual change from double to O's to Forza. That stuff started to become brighter. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
the
like,
GAC, the detox took a took a hot minute.
yeah. So I mean, there's a parallel in that. But yeah, I'm gonna say after 2011, nothing's really changed in anime. I'm waiting for the next big change. Maybe it's VTubers. I don't know. Definitely not light novel isekais because we've had that for a decade. Maybe.
all
Yeah,
right,
I'm
so
just waiting for the next big change in anime. Kimetsu
yeah.
no Yaiba
yeah,
is
Again,
not.
I do think honestly that these current years, I want to say 2020 onwards, just obviously 2020 is a good marker because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
But I think these years onwards is the sort of structural change. It's just a much more boring structural change than I think we're expecting. So, but yeah. Anyways, thank you very much, Toast, for helping to kind of go over again a top level description of what was going through your mind at that moment. Um, and I guess I'll start off here because again, I can just kind of give a general idea of what I guess what was going through my mind a little bit more when we were talking about this idea and the choice I made. So the first series I want to talk about that has that impacted the way I view anime was Digimon Tamers. Again, 2001.
I like how you
And
like. That's the third one, right?
yes, this third one.
Oh, I don't know. Spire, Renamon.
I don't know about, I don't know
what
what like this whole like Renamon
Why
thing
are
is going
you
on.
saying
I mean, listen, man.
It's like, I don't know, it's fine.
Like,
Renamon is pretty life changing. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty.
Really
I'm not sure
changes
where this is going.
perspectives when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Are you
don't
saying
know,
that
Spire.
in a similar timeline, I should have gone to a furry convention with
Yeah.
Renamon? Is that what you're saying?
A lot of people like this series because of Renamon.
Really?
Yeah, different
Like
timeline.
I know some people. I know
Fire?
some people that like are like, oh, like. Actually no, I don't even know that. Like I know a couple of people that like liked Renamon, but then like you know how there's like memes online about like wanting to like like Renamon as like a furry attraction kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
funny
like, but I
meme.
don't actually know those
Yeah,
people.
a little
I don't know
bit, just a
anybody
little
that went
bit.
that far. It's
Hilarious.
just not me, haha.
It's
Yeah,
such
exactly.
it's just such a funny meme, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, guys, that meme wink wink
Yeah,
that you
I would
see.
never do
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
that funny
Definitely not.
little thing.
Definitely not the 300 pages of porn, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny
The
meme.
300 gigabytes of porn I have of Redemon. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely not
who's your
my
favorite-
entire saved folder of Renamon. Every single image.
ironic,
I have
dude.
a
It's-
bot set up to download every post on Dan.
AI, you know what
Yeah.
this AI art is leading to? Y'all know what it's leading to.
Infinite.
Yeah, exactly.
art.
Infinite.
Fire,
Yeah,
what was your
exactly.
favorite Digimon in Digimon Tamers?
My favorite
it-
Digimon digital?
Is there Renamon?
No, it's like the the evolution after the I keep forgetting the evolution names for the green one.
Oh, Terriermon? Nice.
Yeah, you know how it's like not the fat evolution that it was like his like super evolution, but like his like sort of ultimate form, right? Like the next one.
The
That
one
one
with the
was
weird
cool.
face shoulders?
Yeah, but it had like all the missiles and shit. That one was cool.
Gargomon.
I like
Mega Gargomon.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I really like that one.
Because if he
But
said Renamon, I'll be like, which form?
which
if
one are you?
There's
But,
Renamon and then there's Cubimon.
What's
And
cute?
then
Oh, is
Talmon.
that the one where it had the like didn't like Renamon turn male in like one of the evolutions? It was like weird. It's like
Talmon, right?
yeah, Talmon. Like the final evolution was like male, and it's supposed to be like this exorcist like shaman thingy.
Or
But,
Sakuyamon when he turned into a chick again.
yeah, Cubimon is the
So,
fox. Yeah,
Spire,
it's
what
like
was
the
your
evolved
favorite?
fox.
Yeah. It's base Renamon, isn't it?
Base Renamon. You're talking about it like it's like Saiyan form, like base Goku, base Renamon.
I've
Like
never heard anyone say they like Taomon over Renamon.
True Renamon.
I actually did like because it's like if you think about it, like how the evolutions worked, right? With Renamon, it's like Renamon's like the regular kind of like I don't know, like regular Digimon, right? Like the base kind of like thing that's already there, and then like Cubimon, in my opinion, is like Greymon, right? Where it's like it's just a monster. You're like, oh, okay, it's just a fucking monster. But then like Talmon, where it's like it turns
I
into
liked
like full.
Greymon.
What?
I liked Greymon. I thought he was cool.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Greymon
then-
is cool.
and then-
Greymon is cool in the very first movie, like in the Digimon Adventures
and then they
movie.
strapped a bunch of bullshit on him and called him Metal Greymon, and it was like, oh shit, this is
Oh,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna
badass.
say, dude, I like
missiles now.
I like
He has
Metagross.
fucking missiles now.
Yeah,
Okay,
Metal
let's be
Greymon was
real
fucking
here.
badass.
And then
You guys-
Skull
you guys have
Greymon when
to-
he got angry? Damn.
Yeah.
You guys have to like.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. Metal Greymon is every boy's romance. Like
Yep,
Metal
he-
Greymon, War
he
Greymon
just
is
Yeah.
strap a bunch of bullshit to a
Bunch of
dragon.
guns on him.
No, but think about it. You know, like
Ah.
the Calvin Hobbes thing, where it's like everybody loves dinosaurs, right? Like,
Yep.
even me, as like a Korean, like random nerdy Asian kid, like I love dinosaurs, right? So Greymon is like already a dinosaur. He's pretty cool, especially in like the first, because it's like you know how in the regular Digimon movies, or not in the regular Digimon series, Greymon is relatively small compared to a bunch of other monsters, right?
Yeah.
Like all the other monsters are like boss monsters, of course, are big, but it's like Greymon is relatively small, but in Digimon Adventures, like they specifically made it so that it's like Greymon looked fucking huge, right? He was like
Yeah.
towering above buildings and like like destroying shit and like fighting with that parrot Digimon or whatever it was, right? And so Greymon was already pretty cool. Like he was like in that sort of form, in like the huge like dinosaur form. But then they made his skull metal and they gave him missiles and a metal claw. Like, think about this from a perspective of like a young boy, like
So
a freshman boy
badass,
person.
dude.
That's so fucking cool. So you know, it is what it is, right?
But Spire, we're talking.
But,
That's the original Digimon. Why'd you pick Tamers?
Oh yeah, so in Tamers, well, first of all, like Talmon is like similar in that like he turns into like the full like thing, right? Like I'm a magical like shaman power thing. I'm gonna bust the
You're still talking
like,
about Renamon? I thought you were gonna go from like, hey, we're talking about Greymon, and
yeah.
now let's
The
talk
original
about Balmon.
question was about the which form of Renamon or whatever, right? For that,
And,
yes.
I
And
got
then
the
after
answers
that,
to that. Now,
Yeah.
now let's
the
talk
reason
about
for Tamers,
Yeah.
the reason for Tamers is that again, I kind of when I really went into like these series for like the first time, and I wasn't just like kind of watching it as like a very young child or like as a baby, right? And it's not just me watching TV, but I was like when I was actively seeking out these things. I was at the time where like these things were coming out, and it's like this, Shaman King, which ran from like 98 to like 2004. So it's like a lot of that stuff was like smack down in the middle of it. Yu-Gi-Oh was there, Pokemon Yellow, 1998, 1999, that sort of period going onwards. And so a lot of these things were going through, a lot of these series were going through this sort of like, not like anti-hero, but they were like in the third or in the middle of their series, or it was like second or third season, and they were kind of trying to add something, add a spice, right? Add something new. And a lot of these series took a darker turn, right? So again, the Pokemon Adventure stuff that I mentioned, like Red, when it was like Red, Blue, just going through, they were all just like, oh yeah, Pokemon Master, blah 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 blah. But Yellow had a little bit of a darker turn where like a bunch of like fucked up shit happened to Red, and Yellow had to kind of like save him and save like the Kanto region and stuff like that. Digimon Tamers are obviously Shaman King, like the way that How is kind of written out and develops is a little bit of a darker bent, or it's a little bit of weird, like existential bent than you would have in a children's episode. Because in a regular series, right, How would just blow up and that would be the end of it, right? But that's not what happens in Shaman King. That is literally not what happens in Shaman King. So it's like, this interesting development that happens. And of course, Digimon Tamers is the exact same thing. It was written again famously by the same writer who was behind Serial Experiments Lane, and a lot of this, I think, the couple of things that I come to my mind as I was thinking about this was that like initially, first off, it was it like took place. I specifically remember it took place in Japan, and like this is a big thing, right? Because it's like a lot of, especially like Digimon Adventures, when it's like they first go into the Digimon world, right? It's like a very colorful, like weird, like fancy imaginary world, but then it kind of has like Digimon inside it, and then you kind of have to like bop them on the head and stuff like that, and that's sort of how it kind of pans out, right? But Digimon Tamers was the first one where it like specifically just starts out in Japan, and one of the scenes that I remember vividly is like when they first have that sort of fight in the on the train, right? Where it's like one of them gets like mind control or some shit like that, and then like they have to like fend off like the Digimon and like fend off the mind control thing at the same time, and it was like all messed up. It's like I remember that tension because it was like they were all like breaking up the train and stuff like that while still doing Digimon stuff, and that the stakes are real now. Yeah, exactly. To see in chat, but it was that, and then also a lot of it was the imagery and like the way it was set up was a little bit darker. Like a lot of like the merging and like the way they evolved was like if you kind of notice transformations, it's like a lot of that stuff like they're like skin like ripped apart, it's like and then like they were like split apart, like kind of disintegrating, and then they came back as like Digimon or as like evolved Digimon. And on top of that, obviously, the way the D Reaper and like the virus and everything was like set up, um, Digimon Adventures and Digimon Adventures Season 2 was set up in this sort of general way where it's like bad people and bad kids who are misled into doing bad things are making bad Digimon, like, shadow Pokemon, right? And like fucking, why am I forgetting the name? Pokemon Colosseum DX or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of like that in the first in the first like one or two seasons where it's like, oh, they're shadow Digimon, they're bad Digimon, they're kind of like bad kids who are kind of not like malicious, like they're not evil, but they're kind of malicious. They're doing bad things, and it's like your job is to like defeat them, right? And the Digidestined defeat them, and then at the very end, this huge monster, this like, and it's always like some huge boss monster that's named like some obvious thing. They'll be like Omegamon or like, or not Omegamon. I guess that's like Omnimon in this version, but it's like it'll be like end of the world mon, apocalypse mon, like I'm gonna fuck everybody up mon, or whatever it is, like the very like obvious name for the final boss, and it's like this huge like thing, and you just have to defeat it. That's pretty much about it. And it's like Digimon Adventures had like the mid bosses that they also had to defeat, and so on. But
So you like the real world aspect over the
I like the
Digi
real
world
world
aspect?
aspect, but I also like the fact that it wasn't just like, like, oh, I'm gonna bop boss on the head and then evolve. I'm gonna bop boss on the head and evolve. And it was like an actual story involving like fucked up situations. Like the G
Man,
Reaper was developed by like the United States, stuff like that. And it was really like messing with everybody. And it wasn't just like one bug monster that, the Digidestin had to defeat. It
when I
was this huge freaking virus that was screwing everybody over. Right.
when I
And they had
watched
to.
Tamers, I was like, hey, I was like, why are these punk kids hanging around the neighborhood doing weird stuff? Like, why are they like what? Where's the Digi world? Well, I don't want to learn about their weird ass countryside. Show me cool stuff. Maybe that's why I didn't like Tamers as
Yeah,
much as the
I
first
think
one.
I think it was definitely a unique turn, which was a little bit unfortunate for people who did want a kind of a more colorful world, a more standard like a Digimon kind of thing. But the me at the time that was like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Why are we fighting in like with Digimon in the middle of Japan? Like, what is this? What is this virus thing? What's happening? Like, why are they? Like freaking like ripping apart the Digimon during like the evolution scenes, and like why are they like sending Terriermon's evolution into a freaking like explosion nuke place or whatever it is. Like that was like sort of what happened in the final end, right? Like he had to evolve and like kind of go into this like explosion like inner chamber thing. But
I will admit
like
the what is it? Digimodify? That's pretty cool. I like
yeah,
that
yeah,
part.
yeah, yeah, that was fucking awesome. But that really affected me, and I think it really turned my head towards like a space, a thought space where it's like it kind of affected a lot of the philosophy that I think about today, where it's like anime isn't just about, edgy characters. Anime isn't just about moe blob stuff. Anime isn't just about slice of life. Anime isn't just about, you know, um, titties and isekai or whatever. It's it can contain a bunch of stuff, and not only that, it can take a story or like a concept that was maybe for children or whatever and really change it to something else. It is just that. It is animation, it is a medium, and it can be darker or lighter or whatever and can change the tone well if only the writers are decent enough. And that I think that really affected how I think about a lot of things going forward. So that was sort of my first series that was very impactful to me. So that's why I picked Digimon Tamers for my first one.
Was that
So yeah,
what? Is that your favorite Digivice too? Because of the card reading?
yeah, I like the transformation, like, but I also did like in terms of like the evolutions themselves. My favorite Digivolutions had to be probably the our war game, the Warp Digivolution, where they evolved like all at once, and then maybe the one where they did the Golden Egg Digivolution in one of the other movies, right? That one. Those two were my favorite. But
I don't
anyways,
know.
that's
To
enough about
me,
me being a Digimon
Tamer
nerd.
Digivolutions were kind of mid.
They were not the best. I
They
think
were not
the
good.
card scenes were good, but it's like
Yeah.
the actual Digivolutions themselves are not
What is
that
it?
good.
War Growlmon? Never gonna be as cool as War Greymon.
Yeah, it's not that good. Yeah, it's not that good. But yeah. But that's enough about me nerding out
So
over
what? So
Digimon
what would you
Tamers.
rate Digimon Tamers out of 10?
I think Digimon Tamers is a pretty solid like 8, I want to say, out of 10. Obviously, I have nostalgia glasses on for these sorts of series, but I mean, it's I'm not sure if I would say it's like 9 or like 10 or whatever. I'm not sure why, but I don't think it really deserves that sort of score. But I would say probably 8 for me. Again, with nostalgia glasses on, of course. But yeah, that was my series, and I do want to move on to the next here, Near. So, what was your sort of first series that you thought of when we touched upon this topic?
I mean, it was pretty. I mean, the first one for me was pretty easy.
Uh huh.
Right. And so like the first, obviously the first one that popped into my head was Neon Genesis Evangelion, right?
I've never heard of this series.
Yeah.
Evangelion.
So Evangelion is it's my favorite series. Like it's just my favorite series of all time. Um, you know, I'm not gonna do fucking history lesson Evangelion. Like it's really not necessary. It's
Yeah.
one of the most influential anime of all time.
Yeah. I don't think you need to explain Evangelion or
Yeah.
justify it to anybody. Period. Yeah.
So for me, like Evangelion is a series that it's one of it's my favorite show, right? So my history with it is fairly long. I watched this show. I'd say I was 13 when I first watched this show, and when I first watched Evangelion, I hated it.
Oh, okay.
I did not like
Why?
it. I hated Shinji, right?
Everyone liked Shinji first
Okay.
off.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
I hated him. I just
Mhm.
absolutely hated him, right? Um, and I got maybe 5 episodes in my first time, and I dropped it. I just dropped it.
All right.
And then a few years later, I watched it again, and I don't know if it's because I was an edgy, angsty teen, more so than the first time, but like, you know, I found it much easier to really empathize with Shinji, right? And that obviously made it much easier to watch the rest of the show. And you know, a lot of people have many opinions about Evangelion. Some people say it's the second coming of Jesus Christ. Some people say it's mid as fuck. For me, the reason it's on this list is more of the man behind, right? Hideaki Anno, and sort
Mhm.
of how like watching Evangelion and a character like Shinji especially really gets you into the mental state that he was in when he was making Evangelion, right? And
Mhm.
you know, a lot of people have hot takes about Anno as well, in regards to Evangelion, where some people will say, "Oh, it's a deep commentary on the mental state he was in, and he's really trying to get that across." And some people will say, "Well, oh, it's just a big Ultraman reference, right?" Um,
You know what
Okay.
the hottest debate back then was? It was I think after the Ava movie, it was like, is Asuka pregnant? You remember that, Neer?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that fucking stupid shit because that
She
shit
said,
came up. That shit came up again in the rebuilds. But yeah.
because it was like,
Um.
oh, she feels sick. Is that because she's pregnant? I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh man, I don't.
No. But yeah.
I-
You know, Evangelion and especially like now that Toast brings it up, end of Evangelion, like they do really offer a good window into the mind of the creator, right? Um.
Mhm.
And sort of the way the characters interact with each other, the way, you know, everyone's sort of like trying to be like on the best possible terms with each other, but they really don't want to like connect, right? They don't really want to have like a real connection with these people because, you know, the situation or the past traumas or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it
Or
just,
like they're also all weirdos, so it's like
yeah, they're
yeah.
all fucked up people, right? And that really like it's hard to put it into words, but it's like, you know, that was probably like Evangelion was probably the first anime series I really watched where, I felt like it was something more than like just a story. And I'm really trying not to sound pretentious here, especially
Yeah.
because it's Evangelion. It's really easy to start sounding really pretentious. But like, there is very real like commentary on, you know, like mental health and sort of almost like subtle like cries for help in the way the characters behave and act and interact with each other. And it's just something that it's really the first anime series, and also it's also one of the first pieces of media I can really think of in general that really felt like it did elevate itself beyond a piece of media. Like this was something that was like a cultural landmark almost. So yeah, like I do think again, Evangelion is my favorite series of all time, but like
Mhm.
I do think it is more than just a show to like. There's a it is a deep show. Obviously, I'm not one of those people where I really get into like the real like the what does all this symbolism really mean, right? Because I do
Yeah.
think a lot of it is just like rule of
It's
cool,
cool.
right? Yeah, like I think
You're not
the
you're
angels.
like you're not like Evangelion was, designed by God so that
Yeah,
every
like
pixel of it is like, but
I
you're
don't
like
think
this
I
is
don't think
I
the
mean
Out of
angels'
certainly
Spire.
designs have real like meanings to behind them. I don't think
I,
the angels exploding into like flaming crosses. I don't think that really has much meaning behind it. I think it just fucking looks cool, right?
Spire, you said God, right? Have you forgotten about the Instrumentality Project?
that's true. You're
But
right.
yeah,
But yeah,
for me, Evangelion is definitely
mhm.
just like the first like as a young adult, it was just sort of kind of like
Yes.
one of those series where it's like, you know, anime can be something more than just, you know, stories and moving pictures,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it really did speak to me. But yeah, that's why.
Man, well, it's like when you first read Evangelion when you're a little kid, you're like, wow, Shinji sucks.
Yeah, cause when you first watch it, right? Cause when I watched it when I was young, I was like, why would Shinji not want to get into the cool badass robot, right? Like who wouldn't want to, right?
Yeah.
A couple of years go by, you're like,
Yeah, and then
because he probably doesn't want to
and then
die.
a few years go by, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't get in that fucking thing either because I don't want to die.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do
No,
think,
very
yeah,
understandable.
That's
Evangelion
just
is definitely
called.
something special.
Yeah. And I think again, it's like Evangelion is just one of those series where, like, regardless of like regardless of your like a person's opinions on it, their overall evaluation of it, it is undeniable. It is absolutely undeniable that within the anime industry, at least, and maybe even outside of it a little bit, Evangelion is a cultural landmark. It is hard to deny the influence that it has had on generations of anime related people.
I'd
Really.
say it's easily the most influential series we've gotten since.
Mm.
Like I don't
Like
think there's been
Miyazaki, maybe.
maybe,
And
I
but
like
don't know,
Adam
I don't
man.
Bai.
think there's been
And like
a
Adam. Well,
single.
Adam Bai is like origination. It's not even like
Yeah,
influence
I
specifically.
don't think there's like a single series or movie or whatever that has been more influential to anime as a medium since Evangelion. And
I don't know, Near.
maybe
Kimetsu
that's
no
a hot
Yaiba
take, but
makes a lot of money.
yeah, okay.
Pop team
Yeah, we
epic,
already
bro.
have a
Come on.
clone series near.
Yeah.
So, where's Ava's clone?
Yeah. Anyways, thank you, Nier, so much for helping to, for your first, I guess, very impactful anime, and obviously a very good pick all around. So,
I can't believe you didn't pick Lane.
I was thinking of picking Serial Experiments Lane, but for me, Lane doesn't really peer into the eyes of the creator as much as Evangelion does. I think Lane as a story and as a piece of media is like almost timelessly prophetic in the subject matter it's dealing with and the way it deals with it. And it is also, I think, like a very important series. But I do think in terms of like the context of my list, I think it fit.
Yeah.
I think Evangelion fit a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Neer. And what about you, Dark? What is your first anime up on the chopping block?
So this one was a tough one for me because obviously, like, I was bouncing between trying to think of either Naruto, for the reasons you said earlier, or even Rail Decks, just because that was like the continuation of like when I was starting to like really dig into other anime and just like stumbling on
Mhm.
shit. But I went with something way more contemporary for my own reasons, and besides this actually, because I haven't seen. And I went with Barakamon.
Barakamon, yes.
Yeah, and so the reason why I decided to go with this was just because this was like kind of the start after talking with Spire. I forget why we even got into the conversation. I think I was just kind of like asking for like spitball, like, give me like some shit that I haven't seen yet. Like, I keep
Mhm.
watching fucking action series after action series. Like, throw something at me
Yeah,
I
we did
haven't seen
actually have
yet.
a lot of talk, yes, starting off after Barakamon, after he did watch Barakamon. We did
Yeah.
have a lot of talk.
And so you floated you were just like, have you seen Barakamon? Like it recently finished
Yes, yes.
talking about it because I think I had wound up watching it. It must have been 20. It must have been actually like right after it finished. Um,
It was either like even just airing at the time or like it just finished. At least
yeah,
season 1 or like the first like 12 episodes or so. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was just like, okay, like I'll check that out. Um,
Mhm.
and that was kind of what got me started on kind of just like the rabbit hole of, okay, it's time to watch every single slice of life series that airs,
Yes,
and
yeah.
we're gonna take meticulous no, like we're gonna really dig into these.
Yeah.
Um, and it was phenomenal, and I still don't think to this day I've watched something as I
Impactful to
think
your
just
overall
like
repertoire.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, just like as something that like let me branch out further and
Uh-huh.
like just something that really hit me as like, oh wow, okay, this is something that like this is a genre that there's got to be like more, right? Like this is
Mhm.
untapped for me essentially.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I just think as a whole package too that it's difficult to find a show that I've enjoyed probably like to the level of Barakamon, especially for like a slice of life series. There's certainly like there's other slice of life series that I really really enjoy,
Right, right.
but just like everything really about it, from just the actual overall story, um, the like character development, the audio visuals at the time were really nice. The, I mean, great OPED, obviously. Um, and then I think what else too really just sold the series for me was the casting was
Mhm.
insane to me at the time,
Yeah.
especially because like not hearing like, okay, here are child actors doing the voices for these characters. And that I
Mhm.
feel like also really sold like the premise to me of this like guy who's now excommunicated and essentially is now going to play sort of a reluctant mentor slash guardian figure for like all of these kids.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
and yeah, and I just think the story of Honda like reaching essentially like his perceived rock bottom and then, having that change of perspective was just a really cool, really good slice of life series.
Right, and
Slow
I
burn.
think it's a good way to come into, obviously, because Barakamon, it was a good series, but also because a lot of people have that um a decent amount of reasonable people, I think, in the anime watch community have to cross had to I want to say put it in the past tense had to cross that hurdle at some point in the last decade or so, I think, because there are only, you know, so many mecha series that are getting published by Production IG, which isn't even, and Production IG isn't even really properly making anime these days, other than like maybe like one a year, maybe with like another collaborative studio. Sunrise, Gainax, what else Near? Who am I missing? That's pretty much like the three that were mainly pushing it out, right? And maybe like Zebek, but Zebek got bought
Yeah.
up by his Production IG, so they were
Yeah.
literally the same, and they were collabing with Production IG to make stuff like Rin Lagrange before, anyways. But
Written like garage. Ugh.
yeah, that was one of the collab series. I mean, other than that, Zebek was making shit like no,
Right,
Zebek
no.
made that one movie, right, where it's like the fall from paradise or whatever. That like one
I didn't
Miyazaki
like
movie was.
Ren no Lagrange.
think
Yeah.
so.
That one was whack.
And then before that, Zebek was just making like all these like fan service series like Kanakana or whatever, MM,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I think people only, especially people as people came into this era of like, or we want organic, we want realistic, whatever series, and like a lot of these like slice of life stuff happened. There were only so many mecha and escapism series that you could rely on, right? So I think people had to cross this hurdle, and I'm glad that Dark managed to um, find a trove of wonderful series through Barakamon as his entry. I think so.
When did Barakamon come out?
It was
2014, summer 2014, as a matter of fact.
yes.
Oh, okay, because did you guys ever make those jokes
Which one?
about Barakamon? Barakamon, Barack Obama? No.
I feel like joking aside, I feel like I've almost seen like a Twitter that like made that one meme once. I feel like that was like an actual thing for like one Twitter account, but it probably didn't go
Just like
viral.
Barakamon, haha, that's the favorite
Yeah.
anime of Barack Obama, and I'm like, oh, not Bakano. All right.
Yeah, anyways, thank you, Dark, and we'll finish off this first round with Toast.
What?
What's your first series on the chopping block?
All right. My first series is a series no one else has ever heard of on this podcast, apparently, because no one else has this form of media.
What was it?
First, Dark. I'll let you put up the picture. It's Tenchi Muyo, but specifically,
Tetsuya.
but the one that but I have to segue this. The one that I'm showing on screen is not the one that I actually like.
Huh?
Story time. All right. So, if you don't know, I'm Filipino. All right.
Mhm.
And us Filipinos, whenever this is back when I was a wee lad, us Filipinos, whenever we went to a party, there was always a karaoke machine.
Okay.
And it's like what was the form of media back then that apparently no one else that here ever had? It's when you have a karaoke machine, you gotta put in these giant ass CDs called laser discs. And this is
Okay.
news to me, but apparently laser discs were not as popular
No.
over in the West, because that
Yeah.
would explain why none of you have it.
When I had like
Laserdisc
karaoke,
was
it was
very
just like
expensive.
Yeah. Like $60 for a disc, maybe.
Yeah.
Back then. And you got to buy the special laserdisc thing, but apparently this is very popular where I was from,
Mhm.
because I'm Filipino in the C region. Talking about like Malaysia, Singapore, Tokyo, or Japan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. So back then, whenever,
Okay. And
It's dead.
Toast is dead. All right. Well, Toast has suddenly died off for a little bit, but all right. Well, we'll cover the series when he gets back. But in the meantime,
Yeah, should we move on to
Damn,
feel like-
he just got fucking
yeah.
abducted,
Yeah.
huh?
yeah, he just got abducted by aliens. But yeah, okay. So I'll go on to the next one, and then we can just kind of toast to like a double section afterwards. But if I'm going to cover my next series, I want to. This is gonna be a little bit because the thing is, my next two are sort of change my perspective in a negative way. So I don't want to be like the person that like poops on, you know what I mean? I don't want to be the one that like poops on whatever, but they again, it is perspective changing. So my next one here is Yosuga no Sora is the next one I want to cover here. So this is trying to fix that stuff, but
What?
no, that's not Yosuga no Sora. What happened, Toast?
I don't know. What happened?
You good?
Are you good? What's happening?
Am I good now? Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Are you okay to cover Tenchi Muyo?
Where did I leave off?
You were talking about laser
You
Yes,
were
you're
discs.
covering
Filipino.
Tenchi.
And laser
Yeah.
discs.
Filipino
Tenchi
and
Muyo.
karaoke laser discs, and
Yes.
and we have a stack of lasers, and one of the laser discs. I think I showed a picture of it. Is was apparently a sample disc, a laser disc special sample disc from Pioneer Laser Discs. You can bring up the picture, Dark, if you want to. The one with the parrot. If you don't, then whatever, it's fine.
I can't do that, dude. I got like fucking 18 pictures in this OBS now.
That's fine. I'll just put it in the chat. But yeah, and on this, there's a bunch of wedding, birthday songs, whatever. But on this disc, I think on the reverse side, or was it a special disc? There was I believe, a promotional for the Tenchi Muyo OVAs. That's what this is. And when we were on karaoke that one time, and suddenly this popped up on the screen, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And we watched it. That was my introduction to Tenchi Muyo. Basically,
Nice.
it's a relic from. Not really my first. I'm not gonna say it's my first anime because I have some old ass anime on VHS, like The Eighth Man and Gigantor, and that's some old ass shit. I don't know where these came from, but I have them.
Mhm.
And then these are super black and white. They're the same era as Astro Boy. But I think this, because I'm bringing this up because whenever we went to our Filipino outings and had karaoke, I was always say, "Hey, when you're done with karaoke, can I watch the anime? Can I watch the show on the end?" And they're like, "Okay," and they played it. And that somehow, I think we got a couple more episodes on Laserdisc, and these are some big ass Laserdiscs. So whenever I had free time, I would plug it in and watch it. But yeah, that's my introduction to Tenchi Muyo. But my
Yeah.
segue is this is not even the actual series that I'm talking about. All right, because the one on screen is the Tenchi Muyo Ryo Oki OVAs. And if you didn't know, Tenchi Muyo is a Tenchi Muyo storyline. I don't know anymore, man. Bunch of side stories, parallel universes, and it's convoluted mess. Like there's parallel universes where hey, here's Tenchi, and this series is focused on Ayeka, and then here's another series. This series is focused on Ryoko, and hey, this series Tenchi in Tokyo, some new chick. Who? I don't care. I didn't watch that series at all. Kione, who's that? Oh, I don't know. But yeah, the real series I'm talking about is the one that came after Tenchi. Tenchi Muyo. This is Tenchi Muyo Ryo Oki OVAs. Is Tenchi Universe. That's the real series, which I think takes place in the. It's canon to one of the authors. I I think. Because man, there's
The thing is, it's okay to like not really explain the plot properly because it's like to
it's not
a sense
really
like
it's not really a
yeah.
plot thing. It's just there's a bunch of writers for Tenchi Muyo, and then each one is like, I don't like where this is going. I'm gonna create my own canon, and I'm like, okay.
I mean, also that sort of like branching off is similar, not just in Tenchi Muyo, but also in like some other stuff like similar to the time where it's like with, I mean, a famous example, right? It's like how the series, or I guess the franchise for Super Dimension Fortress Macross worked out, right? Where it's like it started with it started with that, and then it did the Super Dimension stuff and the Macross stuff, and then Macross went in like a different direction. Then like all this stuff happened. It's like, bro, what the fuck is going on right now? So I don't think it was necessarily just Tenchi Muyo at the time, although a lot of it was pretty confusing. But
But I bring
I
up
think.
Tenchi Universe is because that's my favorite series of the one.
Mhm.
Because each series, in some way, kind of focuses. They're all hair and whatnot. Each series kind of focuses on one girl where it's kind of obvious this girl is the main focus of the series. To be fair, there's a lot of focus on Ryoko throughout the whole series, but Tenchi Universe is the one where she kind of wins in a way. She has the
Mhm.
most focus in the series. This extends to the movies. Tenchi in Love 1, 2, and 3? Something like that? Where there's a bunch of Ryoko parts in it. But yeah, I guess why I bring this up is well, it is kind of part of the Toonami block. This is, I want to say, early Toonami, like 2000-ish. Is it? Oh,
Wait, which one?
Tenchi Universe.
Tenchi Universe. The anime?
Yeah.
The anime was initially made in '95, apparently.
When did it come out on Toonami though?
It's good. 2000.
Yeah, because the OVAs, in a way,
Hmm.
I never really finished the original Tenchi Muyo OVAs because, Laserdiscs are expensive, man. I didn't have all
Right.
13, 12 episodes. I had like 1 and 4, maybe. Because there was one where, the first episode where they find Ryoko in a cave, and then the swimsuit one. That was cool. I
Mhm.
believe they showed these on Toonami, yeah. Which is how I watched the entire series. But after that, there were these small interconnected little stories that really didn't have a plot. They were just whatnot. They were OVAs in a sense, so you can watch them in any order really. But then Tenchi Universe is one I got to. The one is the one where they had an actual storyline. I don't remember
Mhm.
the storyline, but I remember them cool space shenanigans. That was cool. And this, I guess, this kick started a bunch.
Kickstarter what?
Uh oh.
Uh-oh. I think you DC'd again.
Okay. I mean,
Well,
wait.
we'll give
So
him a minute.
yeah. So actually, Near, I'm curious. Did you have you watched like Tenchi Muyo and stuff like that? I personally have not, although I did watch stuff like
I
a little bit
watched
of
some
so
like a long time ago, but in terms of like all the like side stuff and all that, I am completely ignorant. Like
yeah.
I watched a
The
little
thing
bit
is,
of
like
like
the
the
old the
original.
main stuff that that appeared in like the '94 like that sort of era where like I was, it's like when we were all like babies, right? Like we weren't
Yeah.
even like we weren't even watching anime at that time necessarily, but it's like obviously you had '95 Evangelion that you watched later, but it was like a lot of um like Ray Earth, Marmalade Boy, the
Marmalade
first Sailor
boy, yikes!
Moon, Macross. What? Are you
Nothing.
back?
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah,
No, finish
and
it. Go ahead.
stuff like Hono no Reka, Utena. I believe that was a little bit later
Yeah.
on.
Oh no, Wreck.
Rurouni
I've
Kenshin.
never heard anyone call it that. It's always
I think
Flames of
90. I
Recca.
think here. I think '96 was probably some of the most famous year because it had like Bird of the Mighty, it had Hana Yori Dango or Boys Over Flowers, it had Conan, it had Rurouni Kenshin, again it had like
Yeah.
Escaflowne. Like I think '96 was like the big year, in sort of like one of like the biggest years in the '90s in terms of anime stuff. But yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff like I kind of picked up like bits and pieces of it later, but I didn't end up watching Tenchi Muyo as really. But anyway,
All
sorry.
right. So where
Toast,
was
go
I?
on.
All right. So this kickstarted a bunch of my interest in anime. I'll say the
Mhm.
space genre, where you have fantastic
Right.
adventures in space, and it's more slapstick and comedic. It's not really intellectual and is Cowboy Bebop grunge? Would you call it grunge?
No.
Noir? I don't know.
Did
What would
you
you call
did
it?
you did you ever go back and watch stuff like Space Battleship Yamato like after this
I
or
know
what?
what those are. Yeah.
Okay.
Those came later on with the Gundam stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is why I prefer Outlaw Star over Tenchi Universe because there's a lot more adventure and exploration in those series
Mhm.
than on Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop's more what is it? More character focused on and tells a disjointed story like
Right.
of each characters and their drama and whatnot. It's not really focused on their cool space stuff, which is And then Outlaw Star is different. You got your main cast, but then they go on cool space adventures, and each planet is its own. Well, not planet. Well, each planet. Well, yeah, I guess it is a planet. Each planet is its own different thing,
Mhm.
and and whatnot. And that's the same. That's where I got the my cool space. I like my love of space adventures from Tenchi Universe, and it also like it introduced me to the harem genre. Really? I think this is my first taste of it
Oh, okay.
because this is before Inuyasha came out, right? I want to say, yeah, definitely before Inuyasha
It
and
is.
whatnot.
I believe so.
But I didn't really realize it then, but I do now.
Yeah,
It's a
Inuyasha was
cast of girls.
96. Inuyasha was 96. This was 95.
I mean on Toonami. Inuyasha was definitely
Uh,
past this.
I think most of it. Let me see. This was 2002. Yes, this was 2002. Tenchi Muyo was 2000.
2000, yeah. So this is my first taste of harem anime where there's a bunch of girls surrounded by one dude,
Mhm.
and they all have to vie for the one dude's affection. And this was the first
Right.
time I've ever like in an anime rooted for one chick to win. It's like these other girls go. These other girls go away. I like this one chick. I want her to win.
Mhm.
And mine's obviously Ryoko because she got the most character development. She's the most interesting and whatnot, and the best
Mhm.
voice actor there. Because looking back on it, the voice acting's not that good. Ayaka's voice acting, yikes! I don't know how to pronounce. Ugh. Just like who are you? Who are Jennifer Darling? Why do you sound weird? Sound
Well,
look up her
it's
her
how
look up her tongue.
localization
It's
was back in those
weird.
days.
And I was like,
They are the front runners. So.
Tenchi and his dad sounded like morons. But then Ryoko is the only competent sounding one. She's an old lady too, but
Mhm.
Patria Burchard, she sounds great. Like I think that's her only role that she's known for, really.
Mhm.
But she's a good, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
really kind of it. A bunch of my anime tastes can be traced back to Tenchi Muyo.
Yeah. I think
I
it's a very
mean,
interesting start to come from, to be honest. And definitely.
even
Yeah.
if I think about even going farther past that, I guess I can even attribute, in a way, I can even, man, I can even attribute my love of Rumiko Takahashi series can be stemmed from Tenchi Muyo as well. where you have a one dude surrounded by alien chicks,
Oh,
but-
okay.
or fantastical women, and he has to pick
Mhm.
one,
Okay.
or more, I would say a fantastical cast of characters, larger than life,
hmm
that definitely outside the norms of society and whatnot, really. So in a way, I
Right.
kind of went backwards because I started from Tenchi, and then from there I somehow delve into Rumiko Takahashi works. My favorite still being Inuyasha because you know Inuyasha's cool, I guess. The second being
Yeah.
Maison Ikoku. I don't know French. I always call it Maison Ikoku. It's the
Uh-huh.
one where there's some dude and he's in an apartment complex and he's hitting
Right.
on this he's trying to cuck this chick. His what is it? Apartment manager Kyoko, because his her fe- her wa- his husband, is it husband or fiance? I want to say husband died, and he's trying to woo her, and then you got the funny cast, and from there Ranma.
hmm
So yeah, and
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think Tenchi Muyo definitely a very interesting series
out
too.
of and I mean this is a kind of a long standing series. There's a bunch of spin-offs.
hmm
Like I said earlier, I like Tenchi Universe. I hated Tenchi in Tokyo for how they butchered all the other previous girls for this new chick named Saku that no one that I hated. It's like I because I thought they were connected in some way. I didn't know they were alternate universes until then. It's like how dare you do that to Ryoko and Kione and all the other cool characters for this? Was it Sak? Is it Sakya? Saw something. I don't know.
Mhm. I'm not sure.
Whatever. Yeah, it was Sakya. I was like, how dare you do all this cool space stuff with Ryoko and the gang, and then blow it all for this some chick you met in school, Sakya. And I'm like, I hate this. I think Tenchi in Tokyo is one of the weaker series,
Mhm.
but like, that's when I kind of stopped. I'm like, I'll just watch Tenchi Universe and the movies again. That's cool. But yeah. Well,
Okay.
I guess I'll generalize it as anything that's anything that's not it's slice of life or harem or fantasy really comes from my interest in Tenchimiyo and
hmm
about it. It's basically one half. It counts for one half of my anime taste, really, and the
Right.
other half is will be revealed soon.
All right.
So yeah,
Well, all right. Well, thank you very much. Again, Tenchi Muyo, very, I think it's, one of the more classic series from back then for a reason. And obviously, Toast was very greatly affected by it. So thank you very much for, uh, you know, kind of talking with us about it. Second round here, I guess we'll start off. This is again, I was talking a little bit briefly about it while Toast was disconnected, but this is where I start bringing the bad news. This is where I was affected and not necessarily in a good way. So this is the second series I want to talk about is a series known. I think this title alone will give some people PTSD.
Jesus,
It is
I've
Yosuga
seen
no
that.
Sora.
I've seen the anime too of this.
The anime is much tamer than the visual novel, but
I've only seen
so
the anime.
Yosuga no Sora, funnily enough, was actually so it's like I don't know whether it was Clannad or Amagami. I think it might have been I think Clannad might have been the first one that I saw that was like a visual novel adaptation, and then like Amagami SS,
Whoa,
and
you went
then
backwards. Wait,
yeah,
wait,
I
what?
don't know. I don't know which one I watched first. It was like one or the other, and then I watched the other one, and then after that, uh, I believe this might have been like the third or fourth visual novel adaptation that I watched,
Wait,
which is very. Oh
which
no!
version of this
No,
did you
wait,
watch?
no. I watched Fortune Arterial before this. I think I watched Fortune Arterial, so this was like the fourth one, maybe. Um. So Yosuke no Sora was 2010. It was 2010, I believe.
I'm
And
sorry, I've been thinking of a completely different series than what you're talking about. I've been thinking of Akisora.
no, Akisora is
Jesus.
Akisora is a very different beast.
It's a
Jesus
little bit
Christ.
different.
I also did watch Akisora, but that's different. That's
I was
honestly
saying, like,
that's like a
how did you?
very full like we're just gonna do smut. Like you guys are okay with this, right? We're just gonna do smut.
I was
Like that
saying, like,
is
how
what
did you
Akisora
watch?
is.
How did you watch this series before Clannad? Didn't it come out before? Nope. I'm thinking of Akisora.
No. That's different.
My bad.
But yeah, so Yosuke no Sora, and I. So this was after I watched Amagami. This was I think after I watched Fortune Arterial, another visual novel, one of the more famous ones by August Visual Novel Studios, and again, this was 2010. This was sort of in leading up to the boom of 2011, 2012. This was 2010 was like the year of stuff like Ichiban Ushiro no Daimao. A lot of like more like Zebek, coming in hot, like slice of life, not even slice of life, but straight up like rom com. Like I want to say like Maid Sama came in a little bit there. Kiss Sis I think was in 2010. Amagami SS. Baka to
Did you
Test was
watch
apparently
Kiss This? I only read the manga.
I I watched and read it.
I gave
Baka to
up on
Test.
Kiss Sis after he stopped picking the teacher.
Oh yeah, no, I like stopped reading it after a while. After like there were no updates for like months on end. But Bakuto Test was also 2010, and apparently Bakuto Test was like the first. I keep forgetting this, but for those of you who don't know, so Shaft has like the legendary like triage, the triple, the holy trinity of like the directors, right? It was Akiyuki Shimbo, Onuma Shin, and I forget the third one. Who was it? Near? Do you remember the name?
For Shaft?
Makoto Shinkai.
there are three there are three directors, right? It was Kubota, I think. Yeah, Kubota. No, it was not Kubota. It was like I forget. Yeah, but there was like a third one. There was like a third member, but it's like this was the first. Oh, Tatsuya Oishi. Tatsuya Oishi.
Yeah.
Yes. So Onuma Shin. This is the first work that he's solo directed under a different
Really?
studio. This is his first ever work with Silverlight. Bakuto
Wow.
Test. Before he had done a solo direction before with EF, Tale of Memories, right?
Right.
With the visual novel adaptation. But before that, it was all under Team Akiyuki Shimbo with Shaft, all the stuff.
Yeah.
So this was his first ever stuff, and this was sort of the one where he really flexed because it's like by now people know the Silver Link sort of Shin Onuma style, Onuma Shin style, right? The whole like very like almost cheesy, I want to say, like rom-com style, right? That he likes to do, right?
Yeah.
But this was his first time kind of flexing those muscles. But yeah, so that was neither here nor there. I'm just kind of trying to give historical context. But in that midst of all that, Yosuke no Sora was dropped in. And for those of you who don't know, Yosuke no Sora is a very standard-ish, like most of it is standard in like visual novel. Like guy goes into a countryside, um, he meets up with a bunch of girls in the school, and obviously he's like he has to choose one of them, right? Because it's like a visual novel, like rom-com kind of thing going on. Except not much on the comedy side, really. And it's like, but each of these girls have their own past with them, and they have like their own traumas and stuff like that, and he has to kind of deal with that shit. And the anime, instead of covering one route or doing like the true route, which is sometimes what people do, or what studios do to make anime based around visual novels, or sometimes they make the anime do the common route and then not really do any of the other routes properly. But this anime ran in omnibus format where like they gave like each route specifically like an X number of episodes, but then they ran it in like some weird like chronological order, and it was like confusing between like the sisters route, and it was like weird. But that's also beside the point. The point I wanted to make was that this series, one of the main heroine of this premise is the sister character that you see in the center, I guess, of the post art, right? The titular Sora, Kasugano Sora. And she is the sister the blood-related sister of the main character, Kasuga Haruka, the main dude, who is sort of feminine boy or whatever. I mean, again, that also doesn't really matter in this story. But the series goes deep, not deep, but like leans into the incest route fast. And it's like it is an integral part of the common route and how the other routes develop. Like very specifically, like the other routes involve the girls trying to pull the main character away from the sister who is possessive and wants to fuck him, right? And so it says like a heartfelt rom-com about being caught by her classmates midnight and your twin sister. Very nice.
I
Yeah.
mean, why do
Yeah,
you
no,
think
he's not wrong.
Why do you think I was
Uh,
drawing parallel? Why did you think I thought this series was Akisora in the first place? It's like
yeah,
exactly
exactly.
this.
No, I don't blame you for that. But so a lot of people have like sort of as a joke, like except maybe not really PTSD over this because it was very it pushed the incest hard because it's like there's a dime a dozen series that it's like, oh, I'm your sister, like Nakaimo or whatever stuff like that. It's like, oh, I'm your Imoto, and like, oh, I want to be married to you, Oni-chan, or whatever. Like there's all these series like that, right? But this series not only
This
had a
series was
slightly
brave enough.
yeah, brave. This series had a serious tone. Like it was a much less on the comedy. Like it had some slapstick, but it was a little bit more like somber, and it like pushed that blood related like incest route hard. It was
Is
weird,
this why you like
and
Oremo?
I didn't like Oremo in the first
No,
place,
that's
and
why he
also I like
doesn't
ISO
like
routes.
Rainbow.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
because
it
it
wasn't
didn't do it.
bold
Yeah,
enough.
exactly. Because it didn't do it. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't.
ISO was actually my favorite character in that. Oh, no, or like actually in the fan disc, I like Saudi the best because like when she took off her glasses, she was fucking hot. But that's neither here nor there. But
Okay,
You
so
know,
with the downgrade, you're saying?
hey, fuck off, man.
you know, Yosuga no Sora, Akisora sit in the same realm of my mind as True Tears and Suzuka. I hate those.
No,
I
absolutely not.
hate
That's
those
not.
series.
I don't think that's.
Remember when I said I was floating around anime because I was pretty bored? This is that time period for me.
Okay, well, the reason why I pointed out Yosuga no Sora was that, and I actually did a little bit of like like combing through like anime throughout the years just to make sure that I'm not like I wasn't just like talking out of my ass. There are a lot of like etchy series out there, right? There are a lot of stuff like that does rom-com and then like has like titties or whatever, like High School DD, right? Which what did it come out in like 2013 or something like that? There's like Papa Kiki, right? I mean, listen to me, where it's like all the girls are like all the lollies are running around. Lieu no Shikoto, Prisma Ilya. There's like stuff like Imocho, right? Sekin 私の妹or 俺の妹が最近なんか like there's like recently my sister is behaving strangely or whatever the title is in English, right? There's prison school, there's like Shimai Mao Testament, there's like a bunch of stuff. There's even, stuff before this, right? There's what is it? Kodomo no Jikan in 2007, right? That had like that really leaned into the lolly stuff. But the reason why I point out Yosuga no Sora out of everything in particular was because I think this series in particular, you can tell that like the reason why this was made into an anime in the first place, in my opinion, at least from what I saw, is that it was a it was arguably one of the first sort of erotic reactionary series. It was a series that was not pushing for these themes and pushing for these sorts of like erotic value or whatever it is, right? This like incest whatever stuff, because they really believed in these like things, and they like the author and the writers and the studios and whoever had these like fetishes related to the story, and they believed in the story. But I believe that this series or this visual novel was made into anime format in order to get a reaction, in order to get some sort of like PR, in that, oh, this series is weird and like shocking, and like, have you checked this out? Like, what's going on? And I think this one was a forerunner of the troubling um stuff, the troubling trend that we see recently, that's like with Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World being made into an anime. The stuff that's, a redo of Healer 2021 being made into an anime. Interspecies Reviewer in 2020 being made into an anime. And I think this has been sort of on the down low for quite a while after Yosuke no Sora. I think the closest one that you could have said that really comes to a reactionary kind of like smut, like anime-ish like series, is, I want to say, Imocho in 2014. Again, like recently, My Sister Is Behaving Strangely or whatever it is, the one where the girl had like the chastity belt, right?
Yeah.
But I think beyond that, a lot of the other stuff, like High School DD, right, is clearly like ecchi series. It has boobs and whatever everywhere. But you can tell that the writing, the direction, the idea behind it is because the author just likes titties, right? The author just likes that like ecchi stuff happening. The author has just infused that into the series because he jives with it, right? That is his thing. That is his deal. That is what he jacks off to. But I think with stuff like Yusuke no Sora, I think with stuff like, I want to say again, interspecies reviewer, maybe, maybe not. Yeah, I think interspecies reviewer is more reactionary than anything else.
Yeah.
And with redo of Healer, I don't think even Rising of the Shield Hero is necessarily that reactionary, because ultimately you can see how the author at the end, like, he doesn't go for the full like cruelty revenge. He goes for a standard, like, he ends up kind of making a standard world building isekai, as Toast knows, right? At the end, like when the chapters develop and stuff like that, when the arcs develop, the hero goes on and makes his world building isekai, and that's pretty much it. And but Redo of Healer doesn't. The Redo of Healer specifically has, it is the cruelty that is the point. It is the whole, like, oh, I'm going to have this, rape scene. I'm going to have this like fucked up scenes, and it's reactionary. It is, they are putting this scene in because it's reaction. It'll get a rise out of. It is almost the whole like own the libs version of like anime, and uh, I remember seeing this, and I remember
Funny you
thinking
should
back
say
to
that,
it
because that was
years.
literally the talk of that anime coming out.
Yeah, I think years later I kind of reflected back upon it, and I was like, why does this series specifically seem so out of place compared to all the others, ecchi series and stuff like that? And I think this is sort of the thought I hit upon, where, again, this was where I thought, oh, people are starting to make, or at least based off Yusuke no Sora, and starting back up again now, like 10 years later, 5, 10 years later, with stuff like Interspecies Review or Redo of Healer. Now people are again making more of these series that are just like, haha, I'm just gonna get a rise out of people by being edgy, by like raping like women or whatever, my slave, whatever isekai stuff. Like, a lot of these series are made to get a rise, to get people to watch it out of rage and like weird. Oh, this is weird, but have you seen it, kind of thing. And it is I think Yosuke no Sora was one of the forerunners of it all. So I think that really changed the way I thought about how producers and editors and people kind of choose anime to produce, and where it's aimed at, and how they make their money off of it. So that was my next sort of series. Unfortunately, again, not the best anime, obviously, but
Spire.
yeah,
When did this come out? 2010.
yeah, it was 2010.
This marked the end of the VN era of anime.
The end. Well, yeah, I mean, VNs were certainly
Name me one
dying
good
off.
VN anime that came out after 2011. I can't. You know why? Because Mahotsukai no Yaru hasn't come out yet.
You're right, Tess.
I mean, and
But
no one mentioned, no one watched the Muv Love, right?
yeah,
That's VN. I mean, This
But
I get
yeah,
this kind of era is when VN anime started to come out, and
yeah.
all
And now
s-
it's similar, and it's this now it's similar with light novels and web novels, right?
yeah.
You kind of see the parallels here, So very unfortunate, but that was my second sort of series that I thought
Just
was.
watch an anime called Boku. That was also this era, right? And Kodomo no
I
Jikan.
believe so. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
doesn't this fall under like the one animes that you troll people with? Kodomo no Jikan, an anime
Yeah.
called
Akisora,
Boku,
Yosuga no
Akisora.
Sora.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It is. It is. But yeah.
Good, good,
Any-
good pick.
Anyway, yeah. That was my pick for the second series that really sort of impacted how I think about these things. Near, what about you? Round two.
So going off the back of Evangelion, right?
Mhm.
Um, I got into a lot of these more, I guess
The Thinking
quote
Man's anime.
yeah, quote unquote deeper anime, right? Like I
Near's
did.
all got intellectual anime, and I've got ha 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 funny ones.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
Anyway,
why are you making us look dumb? Yeah.
um, but yeah, I watched a lot of stuff that was like considered,
I'm like
deep
talking about
or
here
whatever.
about like a visual
Yeah,
novel
like
about
deep
fucking
or
my sister.
dark or
It's like
whatever.
yours like,
Um,
what about actual good anime? It's like,
yeah,
well, fuck
yeah.
you,
So what
bro.
about things that make you like use your brain cells? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah.
If I
Um,
wanted to do that, I'd read a book.
yeah. But
Just read
yeah,
the
off the
manga,
back of
bro.
that, I discovered this funny little uh movie OVA. I forget what this was initially released as. Um, but it's basically a movie, right? Um, called Angel's Egg, also known as
Mhm.
Tenshi no Tamago. And this is this is a hard movie to really describe or
I mean, he
discuss.
apparently
Um,
apparently the director himself was like, I don't, or the creator, Mamoru Mamoru, right?
yeah,
Oshii himself was like, I don't know what the series this thing was about.
yeah.
Honestly.
So this is like a real like um brainchild from Mamoru Oshii. Um,
Mhm.
and in a lot of interviews, people have sort of asked Mamoru Oshii like, what the what is the meaning behind this film, right? Like what is the purpose? Like what is the message? And he's never really said. He's either said stuff like like Spire said, he'll just say, I don't know, or he'll say, I'm not going to tell you. He's never really said what it's about, why he made it. But when you're watching it, you can tell there's meaning behind it. There's legitimate meaning behind it. There's a reason he made it. It's obviously very personal to him. Um, there's definitely symbolism there that like all collectively has a message, but it's so abstract. And there's so much that's like sort of a lot of stuff that you can really look a lot deeper into than you probably should. But this is a movie. Again, it's brainchild, like from Mamoru Oshii. He directed it. Um, this is from Studio Dean as well. I believe. Yoshitaka Amano,
Uh-huh.
famous
Who's that?
for Final
Final Fantasy?
Fantasy.
Never heard of it.
He did a lot of the designs and stuff, and it's a very ethereal movie. And it's one of those things where as you're watching it, you kind of get the feeling that pretty much every frame and every scene like has a meaning behind it, has a message behind it. And you know, again, similar to Evangelion, it's one of those things where I think it's the first piece of anime that really sort of you know, I guess like enraptured, right? Where it's like I really want to know, I want to know what this means, right? And you really start looking into it and you start researching it, and the people behind it, and you start looking into theories and shit, and you're like, I was obsessed with this thing,
Right.
and it really got me, like, I guess thinking like, is there really many other things out there where it's like, you consume a piece of media and you don't really get it, and you're not supposed to get it, right? Like you're not, like it's not really made to be consumed necessarily. It's sort of made for one person, right? It's made uh as a pure passion project. It's made just to get something out there, right? Something that's inside the individual out into the world, and it doesn't necessarily need to be understood. It doesn't need to be dissected in every single meaning, you know. Um, it can really just be an emotion or a feeling, sort of solidified into media, right? And I can't really think of many series or movies or even books that are like that, where it's like it is very abstract, and like you can tell there's meaning there, but you're not supposed to really know what that is, right? Like you can get a general idea when you look into some of the symbolisms and the overall story, but in terms of like concrete, uh,
It's sort of like it's sort of like a slightly more modern like form of just sort of like impressionism, expressionism, like kind of showing the art by your feelings. But it's not like a fully crazy like Angel Egg. I don't think was necessarily made to be like, hey, look at me, I'm such a unique, snowflake or
yeah,
whatever.
it's
It's not
it's
really that.
more, it's
It's
like
not. It
structured,
wasn't
right?
made to because he wanted to be unique. It was more made because in a unique way because he was kind of just like trying to do stuff. He was kind of trying to put something out there, as you said,
Yeah.
which is yeah.
And it's not like, I guess the stereotype that a lot of people think of when they think of like abstract art, right? It's not just shapes or something. Um,
It's not like a Jackson Pollock painting. It's not like you're not
yeah,
he
there
wasn't
there
just throwing
are
stuff out there. Yeah.
there are characters in this, and
Mhm.
they go through a story arc and they interact with each other. And while the interactions are brief, and there's not very many words shared between them, like
Mm.
there's still a journey. There's a structure to this, and despite the structure to it and the sort of grounded nature that this has, it still feels like very fleeting. It's very, like there's really nothing, like you really feel like you can grasp on to something there. Like there's like a lot of the symbolisms and stuff, but it's still very like, it's still abstract. You still can't really, you can't extract a specific thing from a lot of this, and
Yeah, you can't get the full
it's,
picture.
yeah, it's the only real thing that I have really consumed like this, where I've gotten that feeling, um, and it's definitely really stuck close to my heart for a really long time, because of that. But yeah, it really sort of changed the way I view you know anime, not just as like a media, like a medium of storytelling, but also like
Right.
it can be, like anime can be an art, it like,
It can focus on the animation instead of the story as much
yeah,
and stuff.
and it's also like, it is very much an anime film, right? It
Mhm.
has the aesthetics of an anime, it's traditionally animated, but it's not like an avant-garde like art piece animation. You know what I mean? It is like through and through anime. It's made by Studio Dean, but it doesn't have like the feeling of like an anime, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. Right, right.
But yeah, it's definitely something that's really stuck with me for a long time, and it definitely really changed like how we view like media, sort of in general.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, I really do enjoy Angel's Egg quite a lot, and I highly
Mhm.
recommend anybody that hasn't seen Angel's Egg. 'Cause I've known quite a people that have never even heard of Angel's Egg.
Mhm.
You should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Especially if you are if you're really into anything with like a sort of more like dark gothic, like weird like tech like 90s 80s like dark tech aesthetic. It's like peak, you know.
Right, right,
It's
right.
it's really good.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely a very I think good choice overall, or a very interesting choice overall, and uh, it's definitely I think it's no surprise that obviously it would affect you. You know, when you first come across it, I think it would affect anyone. Um, just you know, just because it is such a unique piece of work. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Neer, for your second round, second series here. And Dark, what about you?
Oh boy, I'm gonna join Spire here and shit on something. And this one's gonna be a real spicy one for a lot of people, I'm sure. Nope, never mind, not that one. Different order. I would never do that. Here we go. Uh, we have TTGL, because why not, right?
Ah, yeah.
So I watched TTGL in 2014.
The funny thing is, I think I'm the biggest. I don't want to say biggest necessarily, but I think in terms of like where we are on on the scale on the spectrum, I think I probably support Gurren Lagann the most out of everybody here in this group, right? Or maybe
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Even
it's not
Toast
so
might
much.
I
have.
It's not even
still
so much that
prefer
I think
Gurren
like
Lagann
Gurren
over
is
Kill la
like
Kill.
the like worst thing Trigger's put out, right? Like, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think like
It's just
where it
very
sits for me
not
and
that
how I'll
impressive.
explain it is like really something else.
Hmm.
So the reason why I put this on here was this was the first series. I watched it after I watched Kill la Kill, funny enough.
Oh yeah.
And it was probably the first anime series that I heard people talk up the high fucking heavens that I was like, at the
Classic.
end,
Yes.
It must be good.
that wasn't, yeah. And then at the end, I was like, I must be fucking crazy because I didn't think that was very good. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much why it's here. Like, uh, and it's like, it's just everything that TVGL has done. I think it's influenced. I mean, I think it's fucking put a like chokehold on Trigger and Amaishi in the worst fucking way humanly possible. Where it's
Yeah, it
like
literally. I think he
the
says in interviews that Imaishi, like the whole Gurren Lagann. I mean, Trigger was made due to Gurren Lagann, and their works ever after were inspired by it. Like he's
yeah, I
been
would
in
say I would
interviews where
argue
they said,
tainted.
Well, both
Personally.
both Gurren and Panty and Stocking, I would say,
yeah,
are
and
the
I mean, and in general, the Gainax stuff, right? Which was also kind of
Yeah, I mean,
Gurren
you could
Lagann was
you could
also Gainax baby.
argue you could argue I mean, you can argue Imaishi like, well, I'm sort of so for me Imaishi like it's hard for me to like really separate Imaishi as an animator from Imaishi as a director, but like,
Yeah,
Imaishi obviously very influential man. He's like his style of animation is literally iconic.
Mhm.
I think for me, the farthest back I can think of like the iconic Imaishi style is something like Studio Shaft's Mahoromatic, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, like in terms of like pure distilled shaft of the Gynex era, like it's Gurren and Panty and Stocking, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways,
And
sorry.
yeah, that I just think everything. I don't know. What had me thinking more about this was Cyberpunk and how it's like
Well,
every
my
pretty much
I'm
every series that Trigger has put out at this point, like any form of media, still has it. Like still
Mhm.
has very familiar story beats, very like a familiar like feel to it, and to varying levels of success. And I think that the like low points have gotten where I'm just like, no, I don't enjoy this
My question is my
directing. I
yeah.
think it's a
So
perfect example of like
What?
what would you call it? Like over like exhaustion maybe or something? Like over telling a story where you're just like you've already gave us this message. It's okay to stop. But for whatever reason,
just
the series
kind
is
of kind
taken
of
to
beat
its.
kind of beating it over your head too much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
again with TTGL. I think the perfect example is episode 15 is where I will
mm.
always say I think this show should have ended. Like, I think I think Gurren should have ended when they fucking beat what's his name, and then their journey goes on. The leader of the Beastmen,
Mhm.
like anti-spiral like man, because it's like
Lord Geno?
yeah, like I think that's where it should have ended. Like once they beat him, that's it. Because
That's
after that,
fair.
then you have about I think like 3 episodes of like really basic, boring politics that are meaningless and really don't go anywhere because there's no actual message when you watch it. Because really, all it was just, Shimon doing property damage, and we're adults now, so we're not allowed to destroy people's homes with giant robots, even though all of their defenses failed and the last line of defense pretty much failed, so they should be shitting in their pants that all of their fucking tools are worthless right now. But instead, we had the extremely basic and boring message driven into our head about how, maybe like government and politics isn't so great. Uh, and the reason why is because destroying people's homes when you need to is an okay thing for a hero to do. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just it's
What's that
just
guy's
been
name
this
with the
thing that
forehead?
I feel like has been fucking
I hate that guy. It's
yeah.
his
I mean,
fault.
exactly. It's like that whole arc was just like him being a dickhead and just this big like analogy of like growing up and like oh you're an adult and it's like yeah, but like this is fucking stupid now. Like
But
this
then
is
they
getting a
go to
little too much. And then the
then they go
actual
to
ending,
space.
yeah, which I would also say retreads the same ground that you know the fight with Gino like fucking tread, except this time it's in space with a different enemy. Um,
Mhm.
but the stakes are essentially the same considering it's the end of human fucking life and intelligence on the line. But yeah, I just like I think this is why like one of the reasons why TTGL was one of the first like major series I watched where tons of people talked it up, and then by the time I was done with it, I was just left with this feeling like, damn, the anime like community kind of dumb, huh? Like,
So
it's
you
like I can see the appeal, but like when you fucking actually like identify what you're fucking looking at, it's like, yeah, okay, the spectacle is nice, but you're going to need to give me a little bit more than the same message twice with pretty abysmally paced like second section to the story. Which again, I think has been carried forward to varying levels of success. We saw it with honestly Kill la Kill, which is why I bring up that I watched that first, considering, going back and then watching Gurren, I was like, this is very similar. Like it's like this
But
is
worse.
really similar. Wow.
It's the same, but like legitimately worse. Like, because
Yeah.
in Gurren, there's like Gurren's themes are really good. Like, I think Gurren's themes are really well done, and they present them in a really good way. But then they sort of like kind of lose that in the last half, to where it sort of tries to go over the like, oh, you're adults now. You can't fight the power. You're adults. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And then it like, starts shitting out aliens, and then like
Kills the
one of the
entire cast.
yeah, it
Because
like kills
it's
off the
time
cast.
to pass
and
off the baton, even though Kamina already did that like
Yeah,
5 episodes
like
ago, and it
we
was
already
way
went
better.
through that, and it was like really well done. It was really
I
good.
think what was disappointing for me, I mean, I liked most of Gurren Lagann. Like at the time, obviously, I haven't watched it again to really kind of like
I think you should.
mull on it.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
I
really
really
should.
think you
But
should.
but the thing that disappointed me the most, and part of it was me never really liking sad endings that much because obviously it makes me sad, like on an emotional level. But also the way that Nia was kind of like commandeered and then just like kind of died off because
Oh
it was an
boy,
obvious kind of it
you
was kind of like an obvious
will
throw off
love
to like
Cyberpunk next week.
because it was an obvious throw off to like you like sometimes you need to accept that loss in your life, right? The acceptance of loss in your life. And
See, the problem is we
no,
already had
what
drill,
I'm
that.
saying,
the drill
We already
only
had
yeah,
that.
spins one
It was
way,
yeah,
Kamina.
Spire.
but Nia, yeah, Kamina is like one thing, but it's like the
Kamina, I feel
final
like
like
his death encapsulates the entire second half of the show pretty much perfectly. But
right.
again, then they were like, but what if we did this again? It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
but the thing is like there was no real reason for like Nia's death to happen and to really drive home that point and to really make like Simon be like the person who has to accept it all and just become the better man and stuff like that. There was no real reason for him to do that, and on top of that, there was no real reason for the anti-spiral to exist really, other than
Yeah.
to show another scene where
The
the
drill
Gurren
gets
Lagann
even
becomes even
bigger and the
better.
robot is
Yeah,
even
and yeah, exactly.
huger.
There's no real reason other than that, which is like, yeah, if you want to show that, but then you also don't necessarily have to like
Well, you have to earn your ending.
try to pretend you don't have to try to pretend like that's super important thematically and kill off people because it's quote unquote important. You don't have to do
Yeah,
that. You can
well,
just
that's the thing.
make the Gurren
Like,
Lagann
you
bigger.
need to, like, I feel like you need to earn, like, you need to earn your story. Like, you need to earn your story beats. And I think Gurren is a perfect example of people being like, accepting the idea, which I hate, of like, no, it's just supposed to be fun, which I had someone directly say to me about, in those exact words about Cyberpunk. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, but you still need to earn when it's not fun then. Like, you can't just be like, oh, this series is supposed to be like fun and have all this spectacle, and then just throw a curveball and be like, well, isn't this deep? Isn't this
Yeah.
like intelligent? And it's like, no, like this is not, this is extremely shallow.
So my
And
question also was that like
I think
is
that's
the
been
reason why
carried
you
forward by Trigger and just lapped up essentially by the anime community without ever stopping to ask themselves, like, has this story, have these story beats been earned? Has this ending especially
Mm.
been earned?
My
And I think
question
the only
is
one that's
that
really
like
been successful has been like Neer and I had a mini conversation, just really quick, just to wrap this up.
Mhm.
Essentially, was just Luluco and Kill la Kill. Been really like the ones that have been like, that is the full package. Like, it had the cracks, but it kind of managed to like keep it all together.
What about
Mhm.
Inferno Cup?
Inferno Cup doesn't have a fucking story, dude. Like,
Little Witch Academia.
Little Witch Academia is a reference like parody show.
yeah, it's
It's not.
largely episodic, and when it does get into like overarching story, it draws it out, and it gets really boring.
What about Die Buster?
I mean, that's not Trigger. Like,
Is it?
no. Diebuster was Gainax, and Gunbuster was obviously Hideaki Anno, right? And Diebuster was sort of a like attempt at reliving Gunbuster in all its glory. And it's like it's got like some more bombastic, like Trigger-esque beats to it, but it's still very much I say Diebuster is still very solidly like Gainax in its identity. It's a bit less Trigger,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
And I had a question from a while back, when Dark started this. But could you clarify? So the reason why you chose this series specifically for a series that impacted you was that it was something that you watched and you kind of trusted the other people, the people around you for oh, Gurren Lagann is gonna be great. It's like a this is gonna gain X kind of series and it's gonna be great. And then you watched it and then you were sort of disappointed by how what would become to known as sort of the trigger formula, right?
I mean, I was
You were kind of
it wasn't so much I was disappointed by the trigger formula itself. It was that
mm.
I had seen the trigger formula done fine with Kill la Kill, and then people were like, "Oh,
Oh,
if you
okay,
liked that, you're gonna
okay,
love this." And it was the
okay,
first
okay.
time when like I watched the series and like again I hit that episode 15 wall where I finished episode 15. I was like, "That is fantastic.
Mhm.
Why are there like 10 more episodes?" and then I watched the rest and was like, how did the glass not immediately shatter for everyone else watching this?
Right. So that was sort of the sort of uh, the disappointment with the community was sort of how this shape this anime viewing for you is sort of
Yeah, that was pretty much my change. Like that was what changed
okay.
my perspective was that you can't trust like
These
the
motherfuckers,
word.
yeah, you
Yeah, you
can't
can't
trust these
trust it.
motherfuckers. Yeah,
Like you can't trust the fucking mall rating. You can't do that.
yeah,
You're not able to.
okay. Okay. Pretty good. All right. Well, again, thank you, Dark, for bringing up, Gurren Lagann. I think this definitely a talk that we did want to have for a while coming, just because we do keep taking pot shots at Trigger series, but we never really had a full episode where we kind of went over our grievances, so to say.
Yeah, don't worry. Join us. Join us next week.
All right. So that's that. And Toast, what about you? Round two, please.
Which one do I pick? Heads or tails?
Heads.
All right. So it kind of piggybacks off of Spire's Yosuga no Sora talk
Oh
where I
no.
talked about VNs. So my second pick that for anime that changed my life was also another VN, a pretty cool one. That
Yeah.
Okay, I'm assuming you missed that. I was gonna say like I don't know if the other one's a VN. I don't know where you're going with this.
what are you gonna put up, Dark?
I wonder.
So yeah, I'm
Your
picking
third. but this is your second. So
But I'm talking about a Canon 2006.
wait, are you?
Yeah, he
Yes.
is.
Canon is a
Fucker.
VN.
Well, you
What?
baited me.
God damn it!
Congratulations. But I was saying you said your second, but this was the third one you linked.
Yeah.
Oh,
So my second pick for anime is a Canon 2006.
Hmm.
Primarily because, like I said, piggyback on Spires, this is the period after Toonami, because Toonami started to get stale with their anime, where they only showed reruns of the same ones over and over again, and they all sucked. And what is it? Paranoia Agent? I don't know what that is. I could never understand it, and it was boring to me. Neer, did you like Paranoia Agent?
I thought it was pretty good. I think there's definitely
Exactly.
some
That's
really
why I didn't
slow
like it.
parts of Paranoia Agent, but like it's solid for sure.
It's a murder mystery with a bat boy and whatever, and I got bored of it really fast. So that's when I started to look towards those anime sites for stuff. And then I saw this one came out in 2006, whatever. That's the time period for this one. Came out 2006. I watched it and I th- I believe this was gonna be the first anime that made me cry, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Because I believe I watched this all in a weekend, and I was enthralled by the character by the uh, by the characters and their stories. For
Hmm.
those who don't know about Canada 2006, it's voiced by what that guy's name? That Kyon looking fella, right?
Yeah.
Is that guy's name Yuichi?
Nakamoto Yuichi?
Uh,
You're Aizawa Yuichi, I think you're talking about.
it's the dude that looks like
Is the
Kyon,
main
right?
character.
They literally
Aizawa Yuichi is the character for main protagonist in Canon.
they
Yes.
literally reused Kyon twice for this. I believe this was my first taste of a Kyoto animation anime that I was made aware of.
Hmm.
This is before I want to say that I watched this before Haruhi and whatnot.
Isn't that the 2002 one, not the 2006
The
one?
the, the, the funny picture one.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that great?
We don't talk about the 2000. We don't talk about the Toei one. We don't talk about the Toei
Yeah.
one.
How does Toei Toei and Kyoto Animation go hand in hand? Because wasn't the Clannad movie also Toei?
The Clown movie, I believe, was helped produced by Toei. I think.
That movie.
Yeah.
I hated that movie so much, and yeah, it
There was a
was.
lot of truncation. It was not good.
And the ending, I hated that ending. I don't want to. No, don't talk to me about that ending ever again. But yeah, where am I going with this? Basically, this is another focal point in my life where we're in the VN part of anime culture. Like I
Mhm.
said with Spire, and this led me into more of Kyoto Animation's works. I want to.
Okay.
This led me into well, I guess
Led you
this
into.
led me into where more story-driven anime. Like I mentioned Tenchi Universe, but it was like, fun space adventures. But
Oh, okay,
this
okay.
one's
So
more
kind
of
of
a
like being a little
character
bit more patient and
character
kind of yeah.
focused drama.
Hmm.
Relating, I guess, related to real life events or whatever. Even though there's a hint of a theological whatnots in there, but
Hmm.
this showed me how deep characters and their relationships can get past the haha funny parts where the girls are right. Like
Hmm.
what's her name again? I don't know. Who's the main girl?
The
Ugu. Oh yeah. Oh my god, I hate that. I
the
hate
IU,
Ugus.
right? I think IU.
No, I use the one. Yeah, it is IU. I'm thinking about Ku. Is it Ku? The Ku's the one that Oh, spoiler, the one that died, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, big old anime eyes. Where am I going
Was
with this?
Conan?
There was a.
I always forget the. Oh, okay. Let's see this.
I mean, after this, I tried watching the original Canon, and I was like, "Oh, this sucks."
No. The original again. The Toei Conan we
No.
don't talk about.
Oh yeah,
This one was Canon was before. Yeah, Canon was
it's
before Air.
after.
Sorry,
Was it? I thought it was after.
I keep getting them confused as well. I think
Air,
so.
air.
Canon was 1999 and Air was 2000, so they were very close to each other.
But in terms of anime adaptation, it's Air first, and then Canon.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
But yeah, this one did lead me to Kyoto Animation Works, which led into Haruhi, which led into Clannad, which
Mhm.
led into VN stuff,
Mhm.
and I guess I got my like a more drama focused series from this
Right.
because the characters were well written. The dynamic between them was interesting. It wasn't just a fun haha love rom com thing. More
Mhm.
dramatic and definitely a sadder anime than what I was introduced to earlier on. Like I'm always gonna bring like True Tears. I hate True Tears. I hate Suzuka. I don't like Yosugo Sora. I don't care for Aki Sora. What else? What other VN anime was there? He- that's not a VN, is it?
Which one did you? I mean, I don't know
You
which
didn't
ones
know
you.
Arya is not a no. That wasn't this.
Arya? Arya, the animation is not. Yeah, it's
That's a VN or that's an LN, isn't it?
I think
no,
so.
it's a manga, right?
Is it?
What?
Arya
I
the
thought it was a light
animation.
novel. It definitely has a light novel kind of
I know
feel.
there is a
Arya is
manga.
a manga.
I
Yes,
thought it
yeah,
was
Arya is a manga.
I thought it was light
It's
novel
based
original
off. It's
first.
based off like two manga named Aqua and Arya, and I
Right.
believe yeah okay. So I
Arya the
was right.
Scarlet
Yeah.
Ammo light novel. It's a light novel. Yeah. Oh wow, another one in 2011. Gee, I wonder.
But anyways,
Yeah.
um,
It's pretty short. Yeah. Drama
okay,
focused series. Good characters. Made me cry.
yeah.
Definitely led to a love of Kyoto Animation and Keyworks. More importantly,
Hmm.
Keyworks. Because
Uh,
my
yeah.
I was originally gonna put Clannad on here, but
Hmm.
because Clannad's one of my top 3 anime of all time, and it's always gonna be there. But I've watched Kenon 2006 first, so that's why I put it here.
Yeah. I do
I,
think that again, if you guys, if for all those people out there, if you guys did like Clannad, and I'm sure most people like Clannad, I don't think that's a I don't think that's a dangerous take to have or in any sense. But if you did like it, I would highly suggest that you watch or read the visual novels. I think the visual novels are also very precious in themselves. Air and Kanon. Kanon, obviously, if you're going to watch the anime, please watch the freaking Kyoto animation version. Do not,
I mean,
do not watch the Toei
you
version.
can watch the Toei version, but
You
really
can't. I mean, you
only you
can
can o-
stab a knife into your skull, but it's not. You know what I mean?
yeah, like you only for the Toei one you only watch like one episode because like
Yeah.
it's really funny.
Yeah.
It looks like shit.
It's for historical purposes. It's like
Yeah,
being in the museum and you're seeing some random shit. Like you're
but you don't
you're like
like you don't like go through that series because like
yeah.
no human being should do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, it's like Studio Dean Fate and like Idolmaster Xenoglossia. It's like you don't really you're not like I
I mean,
love that series.
I don't know, bro. I'd say Dean's Fate has like
Mm.
infinitely more value like
Mhm.
as a series than 2002 Canon. Like
2002 Ghetto was a low bar. It was pretty bad.
cuz at least with Dean's Fate it's like it's the first
Yeah.
adaptation of Fate, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's semi it's they tried, right? They tried
Yeah.
to
It was
depict a
definitely
lot
more
of the
faithful to the VN than
yeah.
later
The
on.
thing is, like,
terms-
Toei had money at that time. It wasn't like they were
Yes,
poor.
they did. It was so fucked up. But yeah,
Oh, God. Toast.
it's so bad. Like I don't understand. I don't get how anybody like drew these faces and animated them and
I
were
want
like,
to
yeah,
post these in chat. Oh my god.
I will have to try and get these up.
To be fair,
See
like
if I can get side by side.
Oh
to be
god,
fair,
Toei
the
animation.
artist for this specific keyword is kind of not that good back then.
yeah. I
For
mean,
in a way, yeah, that's kind of
the
rough.
I mean the visual novel art is pretty rough, right? But it's like it's not like this, bro. Like and
Not like
also
this.
They tried it too hard to imitate it, and it
you know
turned out
yeah
bad.
like also
It's an homage. It's an
there's
homage.
there's a point where you look at a visual novel's art style and you just go we're no we're not doing that,
Also,
right? I mean just look at Higurashi,
also, I
right?
want to say, the visual novel stuff for Klana and so on was a clear product of its time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for the anime, even for 2002 kind of stuff, this was below average. It was
Yes.
not a product of its time. This was not good.
Yeah.
Like there were other series like in the same period doing similar stuff. That didn't look like this. No.
It only took 4 years for them to modernize Inoue's art into something
Kind of,
actually
yeah,
good looking.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
Anyways, kind of an aside
Inoue is
again.
not exactly the best artist that they have on a
Yeah.
thing. That would be Naga. Naga is the better artist.
Naga
Yeah.
is the artist that everybody knows. Is
Yeah.
pretty much the artist that everybody knows from Key. But yeah. Anyways, thank you Toast
Yeah.
so much for
Check out Canon specifically 2006 if you like Clannad and other key works before Little
Mhm.
Busters,
Yeah.
I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, you can stop with Clannad.
Canon and Air are very good. Like once you look through Canon and Air, you gain a deeper sort of like appreciation of where Kana like built up and came from and like kind of developed as a series. I think so.
It's also one of the first series where each girl had their own mini arc within like the 24, 26 episode thing, and it ended well. It's like
Mhm.
here's the end of this character, whatever, and then the final girl, whatever.
Mhm.
Not many anime do those well, and even recent ones don't exactly. Even recent keywords aren't exactly good with those because I don't know. I've not really liked many keywords after Angel Angel Beats. Yeah, Angel Beats. I'll say Angel Beats. Sure. That's
Yeah.
after. They're not that good, man. Just stick to the classics. Air, Canon, Clannad, Angel Beats, Little Busters, but only the VN of Little Busters. If you can stomach the anime. I know Spire loves that anime. I don't.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's
thank
about it.
you Toast. Yep. Thank you Toast for covering your second one, Canon, and I guess
2006. You have to add
'cause
2006.
2006. Yeah, no, yeah, very much so. Please, 2006, for the love of God. But yeah, I guess I'll finish up the sort of, or I'll start up the last round of stuff. And my last anime that really influenced me, or not really influenced me, but it's like was definitely impactful on how I thought about anime going forward. Um, Dark has it off on the screen. It is Oregairu, actually, and
That
this might
explains
be
one
surprise.
because I never really was fond of this series as much as anyone else was like, "Oh, Snafu is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best
So
rom-com
yeah,
ever." And I'm like, I don't see it.
yeah, yeah. No, Toast is echoing a lot of sentiments that I'm gonna talk about like shortly. So 俺がいるやはり俺の青春ラブコメが間違っている or My youth romantic comedy is wrong as I expected. This was, I believe, this was a Silver Link. Why do I just? It's brains base. I just keep putting stuff to like Satellite and Silverlink where I'm lazy. You guys will notice that about me, just because I'm just like, oh, it's some slice of life that's like mediocre. It's probably Satellite or some shit. But yeah, anyways, it is brains base. And light novel original obviously is a. I read the light novel quite a bit before the anime, but I did watch at least the first season of the anime, and it blew up obviously. Blah blah. And the light novel is about this sort of loner, like not cool, like whatever person called Hikigaya Hachiman, and he's supposed to be this like nobody really likes him. He's just like a loner. He doesn't go out and meet anybody. He's like he kind of acts like brusque and like curt and just like well, but he's like he has this like secret pragmatic ability to kind of like devise solutions and like be like pragmatic and like almost like Machiavellian and be like yeah like and just like like tell people how it is. I think that was the biggest thing, right? It's like he would resolve all these things through discussion, right? Like there would be this like asshole, right, in an arc, right, that's like ruining things for everybody, right? And he would either find a way to like set things up in the school to either humiliate the asshole or like make him learn his lesson, or he would go up to the asshole and talk to him and be like, tell him how really is. And even though everybody didn't really like Hachiman, doesn't really like the way he conducts himself, doesn't like the way the main character conducts himself. Every Eventually he's the one that saves the day. Eventually he's the edgy cool dude that really saves the day. How this end? Did they write it out of the anime? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, with the fat one? No, the fat one. I forget what happened with fat dude. He does something weird. I forget. Um, but he so yeah, I know who you're talking about. I think he just like they didn't write him out of the anime, but like he gets like less and less of a role just because all the other characters start jumping in. But he was like a good character. He was a fun character in the anime. But the reason why I picked this, right? And this was created in 2013. This was near the end of sort of what Neer and I usually talk in the podcast about the streamlining of anime seasons. Again, from 2000 before 2011, there was a lot of anime episodes that had like a lot of anime series had like different numbers of episodes, where it's like some had 12, some had 10, some had 6, some had 8, some had like 17, some had 16, some had like 23, some had like 52 or whatever it is. And it was like all over the screen. And from 2011 to 2014, there was a lot of streamlining. A lot of series kind of came down to this like 11 to 13 episode kind of range. And then from 2015 onwards, 2015 is sort of the first major year where you can see a super majority of the anime series in a season be 12 episodes exactly. So that was sort of the full transition to using anime more as a promotional tool, and streamlining the anime production process to pump these sorts of things out, pump these adaptations out. So this was sort of in the middle of that transition, and this was when light novel adaptations, back when light novels were really like ramping up, just like really like there were so many, like I mean obviously there are a shit ton of light novels now, but there was a craze like coming up the horizon back then. And while light visual novels themselves were on the decline, right? And so this was also in the same time where, at least in the West, right? In the West, there was this sort of like stigma going on, right? There's already this stigma in this context, right? And again, this is in the early 2010s, late, 2000s, stuff like that, where there's there's a stigma against watching cartoons and anime in general, watching Japanese anime in general, right? And newer people might not know as much about this because it's like these days it's like a meme, right? It's like, oh, you guys watch anime weeb stuff like that, and it's like that becomes like a general like internet meme, TikTok kind of thing, right? But the animus back then, the stigma back then was very real. It was like if you watch like anime like even stuff like Naruto or whatever it is, let alone something like Haruhi or Lucky Star or whatever, right? You would be stigmatized, and that was especially not only was that sort of like layer there, but on top of that, um, within the anime community itself, right? And obviously there are these very similar lines now, but there are these fights, right? Where it's like if you watch stuff like K-On! Or if you watch stuff like um I don't know, whatever, some rom-com, right? Like MM or Ladies vs. Butlers or whatever it is, right? Um Man, think of all the Ellen we've been dubbed to just by Sword Art Online and Monogatari. Yeah. Um if you watched a lot of these like rom-com series, harem stuff, like whatever, you be people would be like, "Oh, you watch moe block characters." Even I think Haruhi, right? Near, if you remember correctly, I think
Dude,
even
oh my
Haruhi,
god.
or even if
The
you watch
like
Haruhi, people would be
the
like, "You
term
watch moe blob
yes, the
anime
term
That's so
series?"
true. I
moe
haven't heard that in
blob.
a long time.
Holy shit. The term moe
I think
blob was a
even Pony Pony Dash,
curse. It
Pony
was
Pony
like
Dash was like so good, and like
yeah, it was a
people were like, "Oh,
hex.
you
It was
fucking
like
yeah."
it was like this like
It was
just the
like infighting
term
within the anime community. It was
yeah,
Lucky,
just the
infighting.
term
Lucky
moe blob
Star.
was like it was like a magic spell to like just
Yeah.
completely obliterate any discourse
And
of any
shut
series
you off. Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah. You
possibly
automatically
imagine.
like you
If
are nothing.
yeah,
All you watch are like
if
hentai
there was
stuff.
if
Lucky
there was a
Star and
female character
Azumanga.
yeah, if there was a female character in an anime, you just called it moe blob shit and
It was
boom,
over. Yeah.
boom, the conversation is done.
And so many people like centered that around K-On! I think K-On! Was like the
Yeah.
biggest like thing where it's like people were just like
Which
pointing to that.
also
It's like
like again,
you
like,
watch
yeah,
shit like
K-On! The
that. Like,
moe blob show.
fucking-
K-On!
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, it was.
absolutely.
K-On! Was literally
people
K-On! was
unironically
like
said,
Oh, I
yeah,
know. I've seen people I
yeah,
saw
it
people
was
post
like
pictures, and I was like, you guys are fucking
K-On! Was the poster
stupid.
child of like, oh,
Yeah.
this is
Like,
fucking moe blob bullshit. It's like
yeah,
and never
exactly.
mind the fact that it's by one of the best fucking studios on the planet. But okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sure.
So that was sort of the context, and again, people obviously think that I'm reading across, sometimes think that I'm reading too deep into this, much like, what Neer is, afraid of sometimes. But I also do like linking sort of popular culture and like trends and attitudes to what was happening at the time, what is happening in history, right? Sort of how, like whenever there's populism and stuff like that, or whether there's inflation or bad economic conditions, stuff like Dirty Harry comes out, right?
yeah,
When things are sort of back on the rise and progressive ideals are rising, stuff like Star Wars comes out, right? Where it's like a lot of it's much more hopeful or whatever, right? And it's like back and forth, right? Between the anti-hero, the Dirty Harrys of the world, the edgy whatever of the world, and sort of the Superman and the Star Wars of the world, right? And Star Trek, so obviously during sort of the
And the Joker.
golden age. Yeah, and the Joker, yeah, exactly. So in going across in 2011, 2013, obviously there's this sort of rise. There's this in the bigger world, there's this like sort of soul rise in populism after the global recession, right? And on the anime level, right, there's this like growing like resentment, not only against like moe blob characters, but like against series like Infinite Stratos or like other sort of harem series that came out at the time, right? That have these sort of male characters that are indecisive, right? And they are indecisive for obvious reason, not a good reason, I will say, but an obvious reason, right? Because else they can't sustain the harem, right?
Yeah.
Because else the story would literally be, okay, I picked
Yeah.
this one girl, fuck off, like the rest of you, right? And the story will be over, right? So there's a bunch of these harem series that come out, and they have a bunch of indecisive male characters who can never choose a series. Index, even Shauna, I think, to a certain extent, even something like Toradora kind of displayed it. Infinite Stratos, obviously the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then across after all of these, after the moe blob, after the indecisive stuff, and this sort of like I guess resentment that's building up, right? Then comes Oregai. So the first time I read Oregai, I was like, this guy is like, I mean, he's like edgy and he's like saying stuff. But I guess I mean like I like the girls. Like the girls are cute and nice, and they have some
Who's your
like
favorite?
nice like stuff. Yui Kama Yui, like 100%.
Look
She
at
is
this
like the
guy.
only one in the fucking thing that like actually talks and like has a proper head on her fucking shoulders and shit like
Neer,
that.
looking at this guy. He's saying he likes Naotoyama.
No, it's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
I like Yuigahama more as well.
That's
Yeah.
that's
So
fair, but
Yeah. See, high five right here.
yeah,
But yeah, but anyways,
she's the only one I can remember from that series anyway.
so they're like she's like one of the only reasonable ones too, right? And
Yeah.
then like the interactions are okay, but it's like this isn't really that good. It's like it's kind of like the same stuff and like all and like everybody's kind of mouthing off and then the guy kind of just creates this like magical discussion, like he tells it how it is, quote unquote, and then he just ends up becoming like super edgy, and then he just ends up becoming the one who magically saves the day through this like magical conversation that everybody kind of listens to, and it's like he's right. He's mean, but he's
Facts
right.
and logic,
And
bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's
Oh, yeah.
Ahead
literally
of its,
Yes,
really
the,
ahead
the
of its
yes.
anime
time.
example.
Ah.
I'm not joking. Like Neer
I
knows
remember
what I'm
this.
talking about,
Yes,
right?
dude, I
Like,
remember
at
this
the
shit.
end
Like,
of the arc.
oh,
at the
he's
end of
so
the arc,
based.
he will,
Oh,
he's destroying like
yeah,
the
he's
the other
fucking
dude with
owning
facts and logic.
these libtards, and it's like he would, yeah, it's like at the end of an arc, he
That's
would
how you
just
solve it.
he
That's
would
how you
literally
solve
just
the
be
problem.
like, "You're stupid," and then
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
would be like, "Huh, I am stupid. You're right.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna stop fighting now." It's like,
This is
You're
why I
acting
didn't get the appeal of
illogical.
this series.
Oh, well, when you put it
he's
that
like
way.
he's like maybe if you weren't such an asshole, you wouldn't be doing this, and everybody's like shocked, like, oh, he's so
yeah,
based.
everyone was
Oh,
like,
he's so
"Oh,
good.
wait a minute. I am an asshole, huh?"
So
Dude,
I was like when I
simply do not be poor person.
yeah exactly
simply work and gain money.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kikiga Ben Shibibo Hachima is
Thank
very
you, based
Yeah, like-
Hachiman.
exactly. But so I read this and I was like, I mean, it's like the girls are cute, but I don't really like this. I mean, and I don't think it's like it's pretty run of the mill. So I think when I first heard that this was getting made into an anime, I was like, okay, well, it'll be decently popular. Like Infinite Stratos was pretty popular, right? I guess it'll be something like that, right? Or like something like Kore wa Zombie desu ka, right? At the time, which is pretty popular. It's like maybe it'll
I
be like that.
wish, bro.
And
I
then
wish
it
they
blew
continued Kore wa
up.
Zombie desu ka.
It blew. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Kore Zone was much better than this.
Yeah, of
series.
course.
But but it blew up, right? Everybody saw it. Like Orega Airu was so popular. Everybody loved it. It was number one on the whole like that like light novel, like read this light novel, or like
Yeah.
Kono Light Ranobe ga Sugoi, or that guidebook or whatever, right? It was number one on there. It got 3 seasons. It got like a bunch of live events on the West. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is the best. This is so unique." And the biggest thing, the biggest, most I want to I don't know whether I would say most peculiar, but the most unique thing about this series was usually when like you have praises, right, of an anime series, right? It's like, oh, I really like the interpersonal interactions. I like the audio visuals. I like, how this character develops into blah blah, and it's like this sort of like general idea, right? If you read Oregairu's reviews, right, they have most of the ones that like give it like an automatic like 10 out of 10 have very specific bent to them. It is they all say this one specific thing, which is I like this series because Hachiman is an alpha protagonist and not a beta
Yeah,
cunt
he's on a
like
weak.
the other
He's on a weak-willed beta.
This is
He fucking-
sounding. This
Yeah.
is
Get shit
very
done.
much sounding like the people who
So
complain
yeah,
about
so
Shinji, dude.
yeah, and you see how I'm why I kind of went into the historical context of that, right? And it's very similar to this like sort of backlash like that was happening, and I was shocked, honestly. I was like, I mean, I was like, well, it'll be popular because it's like a rom-com harem kind of thing, but really, like there was so much like you guys hated Moe Blob and like beta harem
Wait,
cock like MC so
when did
much
this
that it
release?
became this popular.
2013.
This was
When
2013. This was
2013.
2013.
Was Kokoro Connect out yet?
Coco Connect was 2012, I believe.
Yeah, so what the fuck? Go watch that instead.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
Kokoro Connect,
but,
Actually,
Kokoro
go
Connect
watch
didn't have
that.
a based epic fucking
Yeah,
red-pilled
Ben
alpha
Shapiro,
male,
yeah,
dude.
I mean,
exactly.
it kind of did
Exactly.
though, except he was actually a person,
Yeah, but he
not
was a
a
little bit
fucking
more reasonable
walking
instead
like
of being like, "Yo, this
autism
guy's an asshole,
spectrum.
bitch." Yeah, yeah, that. So I was honestly shocked because obviously I knew like there was backlash against Moy Blob. I knew, you know, people necessarily didn't really
Yeah,
like
also,
the whole
that's
like
another
harem
thing.
stuff.
Kokoro Connect is Moy Blob shit, so...
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Kokoro
true. That's
Connect was
true.
still bound by the Moy Blob
That's
stuff. Yeah,
true.
the
I
curse.
forgot.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Key feature of
This
Moy
isn't.
Blob shit: characters with
Yep,
deep
characters with...
fucking trauma over fucking being
Yeah,
sexually
I
assaulted.
think you mean characters with large eyes. See,
See,
Hachiman has...
this was
See,
drawn by
Hachiman
Brain
has
Space, so this
square
isn't Moy
eyes
Blob.
and small
Yeah.
pupils, so he's not Moy Blob shit. He's fucking base and
Yuga
epic.
Hama Yui is drawn as a regular, like he's not. It's not Kyoto animation; it's Brain Space, so it's completely different. So
Yeah.
you know that's
Oh,
how
okay.
it is. But so I was shocked by this when the first like reactions in the West came out because it was so strong. It was everybody was like, "Oh, this is the best because it is he's an alpha protagonist and this has never happened before. This is so awesome." And I was just like sitting there like, "What? Like really? Like this much? Like I know you guys like have this like like animus towards these sorts of like cute like kind of like whatever like innocuous vanilla series, but really? Like really? You guys are gonna go out like this much on this much of a limb?" And so this like really changed my perspective where um I was like people want their anime in some sense to really reflect sort of um their I don't know like their hate or their detest or like they
Their
want it to
extreme
kind of
crippling insecurities.
they want it to reflect sort of the what's the word what's the German word for the moment the moment of the era or whatever it is what's the word for it? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? The spirit of the era or like the moment of the era. They wanted
I
to
don't know.
reflect.
The only like German funny word I know is Schadenfreude, so...
What about Ubermensch?
That's not true. You know, Gestalt.
Zeitgeist,
Yeah.
something like a Zeitgeist, right?
Zeitgeist?
Like
Zeitgeist, yeah.
Yeah,
zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist, yeah.
Uh, they
Yeah, we
want
speak
it to be
American
like
here, buddy.
Yeah.
yeah, they want it to be representative of what like that like zeitgeist like represents what they're feeling that trend, what they're feeling in that sort of like populist moment, right? And they're like, no, fuck this Moy Blob, fuck this. I want even if like this character makes no sense, even if these interpersonal relationships makes no sense, even if the resolution of this arc makes no sense, even if like all these like characters are assholes and wouldn't actually work in like any reasonable organic human setting, I want Hikigaya Hachiman. I want this guy to be the edgy guy. I want him to be like Elon Musk or like Tony Stark or whoever, and be like, "Oh, you guys are looking down on me. You guys, the entire society is against me. But guess what? I'm gonna be an asshole, and I'm gonna be right. I'm gonna be the one that saves everybody." And it's very, again, it's similar to what I said about Yosuke no Sora. It's almost like a reactionary kind of thing, but it sells, and I was just so perturbed in a sense about how well it's sold.
And
And
it set a
obviously, you
trend
guys,
too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going on even up to
Yeah.
now, right? And it will continue
I
to go
mean,
on.
we still had, I don't remember if it was posted here or not, but a fucking like 30-year-old man going through Ava for the first time and being like,
Mhm.
man, if I was Shinji, I would fucking totally like, I
Yeah,
would
it's
get
Yeah,
the
like...
exactly.
robot and
That's the whole
I
thing.
would fuck all the girls. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you're like 30. You
Yeah.
really need to like have some level of fucking like introspection and thought beyond like
Yeah, like self-awareness.
I would be the guy who takes down the school shooter for sure.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Like,
And
okay.
I think this really changed, like, impacted me deeply in a way where it's like people were like viewers are so willing to like it's one thing where I'm like enjoying the animation visually, right? Like, let's say even if you're sacrificing a little bit of story for the animation, like that's understandable in an anime sense because it's anime, right? And like part of the value is watching the thing, right? Um, but to be so invested in a certain type of narrative or storytelling or pop culture or cultural trend so that you would be willing to sacrifice a story's quality such that the type of characters that are born of the shittier story fit your narrative and fit how you think protagonists should be and how protagonists should be manly or like he should be swift as a coursing river or like bam like saving the woman and not being a beta whatever, right? It was and is very perturbing to me. And that Origairu was the first time where I was really like, oh, this is what people want, huh? And it was a little bit disturbing. So that was sort of the third series. And again, it's a little bit of a somber note, but it is the third series that really impacted how
So
I view anime today. Yeah,
is that why
those.
people like Andrew Tate nowadays?
I mean, it's all sort of,
Honestly, there's
in my
more to
opinion,
that,
all
but
part of a
kind of.
similar trend. It's like again, that's why I brought up the whole like Dirty Harry thing during like the previous like
Yeah.
stagflation in the United States. Um, I think this is after the global recession and the rise of populism, the rise of like I want the edgy dude, I want the guy who society hates and who the government and the school wants to put down, but he's right. He's the cool dude. He's the guy that'll show us the truth. And again, this is a sign of the times, in my opinion. So that was sort of the third series that really did, and I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart. This is not just simply a dig at Oregairu, but it really did affect me and how I myself and how I viewed anime from then on. So yeah, that was my third and the last series. And Near, what is your last series of
I was always
today?
more of a Ore Monogatari kind of guy, not a
Or
Oregairu.
I think that's a little bit different. But yeah.
No, I don't know, man. Same voice actor, same main character role. He's just fatter.
Yeah. So my third. It's my third, right? Yeah, it's my third.
Mhm.
Bit of a time jump from my other two, but you know, I really thought for me it's Hoseki no Kuni, right?
Never heard of it.
And
Yes.
yeah, so I love this show, right? Like I adore pretty much everything about this show. Its premise is unique, its characters are unique, like just everything about it is just it's it's right up my alley, right?
Mhm.
And I remember when I first saw this show, right? Like the first episode came out, and within the first minute, I was like, there's nothing else like this. Like there's literally nothing else like this
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the
I mean,
industry. Um,
it was I don't think it's really an understatement, at least in the recent years, to have called it a landmark.
yeah.
At the time because it was fully 3D. I mean, it was showing off the future. This is the future.
I
Like
mean,
that
it's
was.
not even that it was. It's not even that it was fully 3D. It is that it was it was fully 3D. Although of course the faces are 2D
Yeah,
animated,
yeah,
like sort of uh overlaid or whatever. But it's a fully 3D like anime. You know what I mean? It's not just
yeah.
a fully 3D CG production, right? Like we've gotten stuff like that before. You know, we've had 3D, you know, anime style movies, but they're sort of using more, um, you know, Pixar style technology, right?
Mhm.
Where the animation is, you know, it's it's more it's more like Toy Story, right? Similar to
Mhm.
you know the recent like Lupin the Third movie where it's fully 3D, right? which is also extremely good, by the way. But this was like the first anime we've like gotten that was fully 3D. It was and animated in sort of a traditional 2D animation techniques. You know what I mean? In which like, and it was good too. It looked fucking amazing, right?
Oh
And
yeah, one of the first
the
things
important
you
thing
can
was that it looked
see
good.
yeah,
is
like
things like squash and stretch, like exaggeration, like like extreme foreshortening for certain like
yeah,
scenes, like especially when what's it called is running for the first time. Like
yeah, and
the angle on that is insane.
yeah, there
I
was
think the important thing that needs to be mentioned is that before Hoseki no Kuni, I don't think it's an understatement to say like even like unless they did it very well, 3D scenes and not just like not even anime, just like scenes in like anime, right? Like where somebody's playing a piano or like somebody's like dancing or whatever, right? Just 3D scenes in general had was either like it was nice, like it passed the test, or like it was horrible. It was a joke. Like that's
yeah.
how bad
So
it was
I
before.
mean, it
before
was a
Hoseki no
crutch.
Kuni, yeah, before
Yeah.
Hoseki no Kuni, when you heard CG anime, right? You
Oh.
thought
Ooh.
you were like
Ooh.
whiplash, like
Uh
what?
oh.
No,
Uh
you were thinking like fucking Berserk, right?
oh.
Or like Love Live like dance sequences or something, right?
Fuck no.
Where it's like it's super jarring. Yeah, it just looks like shit. And even if it did look passable, right? You were still looking at it and you were like, that's a model. That's a model moving.
I don't know,
You know
man.
what I mean?
Berserk, fantastic.
Yeah.
Nothing else like it.
Akanohana,
That's not true. There's
fantastic.
something else like it. It's called Exarm.
True. But
Akanohana, though, ugh.
but yeah, like even like decent and serviceable like CG, even high budget CG, like really, CG that we were like, this is good. Like what is that movie? Escape from Paradise or whatever? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Excel from Paradise or whatever, yeah.
Something like that, right? Like that's a good looking movie, right? But it doesn't hold a fucking candle to what we like just what we're immediately introduced with the first episode of Hoseki no
Absolutely.
Kuni.
Yeah.
And it's like this like like I was watching Hoseki no Kuni and I was like, this is like history in the making for like
Yeah.
animation.
Absolutely.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not just the anime industry, right? Like obviously it was like it's still a fucking a landmark, right? It's just absurd, like
Yes.
how big of a step up it was. But like it was like this is like never before seen for like animation in general, right? It's like it pushed the envelope so far, that I really haven't watched a series since that has sort of made me feel like stunned almost, that it's like this is like this is just something that's out now, like it's just like this is something that's being
And they
made,
also and they also kind of show that they had the technology, that they had the process, the workflow process, and the
yeah,
proper
they were very
budget and everything.
transparent about how they animated it as well, like
Well,
they
also
they
because
went through.
they made yeah, they did B stars as well, and it's
Yeah,
not just if this was just like an art film kind of thing, right? Just like oh, Shaft gave us $2 million to make something, or like Production IG
yeah,
gave us like $1 billion to make something, and then we just made it. That would be one thing, but like it's a consistent process now. It's obvious, like
yeah, and yeah, for me it was just like this is like a turning point for the industry. It's a turning point for the medium.
yes.
It's a turning point for animation, right? Um,
Mhm.
I really feel like I personally genuinely feel like Hoseki no Kuni like is similar to like I wouldn't say it's necessarily as big, but it is similar of a like as a landmark to like the original Toy Story coming out. Like
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
huge, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's and the fact that we had that on top of a series that was just incredible, right? Like it's just an incredible series on top of that.
Yeah.
Um,
The story is actually like a thing.
Yeah,
It's not
it
just like
was-
again,
it
it's
was-
not just an art film.
yeah, it was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing experience. I personally really I haven't watched anything that's really topped it for me since.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's definitely really like it's absolutely changed the way I view the industry. It's yeah, I really can't. I can't really put it into words just how like big I feel Hoseki no Kuni really is.
Yeah.
And how important it is to the industry. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's huge. In my
I
opinion.
think anybody that has been sort of properly in the know, in tune with how the anime industry is changing and how they want to change, and the sort of place that they've been in, and sort of like how they're dealing with having to make higher and higher, like consistently high quality art, while their freaking industry is not only obviously again a shitty model, but also has just recently gotten ravaged by COVID and stuff like that, as well as studios going bankrupt here and there for various reasons. Again, the industry just being shitty in general, and this sort of thing is just again a game changer. It is a game changer, so it'll be.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting thing to see coming out at a very good time, I think. So.
What's the next big 3D anime that's gonna change the spectrum, though?
I think honestly from here on out, it's not even gonna be like a specific like anime that's coming out. It's gonna be like them slowly polishing up the quality, and then I think the breaking point will come where it's like some there will be a private or public like third party software or like set of tools that everybody in the Japanese anime industry is cognizant of that can kind of pump out these 3D animations quickly and
Yeah.
cheaply. And once that happens, what you'll see as a symptom of that is you'll see a bunch of indie studios pop up. You'll see a bunch of smaller studios pop up because they can afford to do that, right? They can
Yeah,
afford to
I think-
pop up these
I
little
think the
things out.
next big change in terms of like CG anime will be the proliferation of Studio Orange's like animation
Yeah,
techniques.
exactly. You'll see
and
smaller
their
indie
workflow.
studios, and they'll start
Speaking of,
competing with these larger studios, and it'll be a very interesting time.
Speaking of Studio Orange, they were also part of Dragon Ball Superhero. That's why they made it full CG.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball Superhero does look really good. It's
Yeah,
still, I
yeah.
mean, I still think Broly looks better, but Superhero is not something to scoff at. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to and what the future
Oh,
holds in
man.
terms of like this sort of stuff.
At most, I hope Trigun Stampede looks good because I don't feel good about that story at all.
Don't remind me. Trigon is gonna be weird.
That's also
Oh.
Studio Orange.
Everything we
I
saw in the
think
Oh,
PV,
it is Studio Orange.
everything we saw in the PV looks good, like in terms of
Yeah.
animation.
But
So-
I'm never
Design
gonna-
aside, the animation looks good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which I mean, I don't hate the design, but it's
Oh,
just
I do.
not-
It's-
I do.
I'm-
It's just like
I've
the design. in
I've warmed up
theory
to it. I've
is
warmed up to it a
like-
little bit, but it's just so jarring that it's like it's not Vash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I mean, literally, like the design details are almost the antithesis to like
Yeah.
to Vash. So it's like okay.
Definitely a modern take on Vash's hair, but
Yeah.
I still don't like it.
I don't know. He looks kind of hot, so it's okay to me. But,
Anyways,
Yeah, he sure looks like a needle noggin with his hair like that. Sure. Okay.
all right. Well, anyways, thank you very much, Neer, for helping to cover your last series here, which is again Hoseki no Kuni. I guess yeah. Okay, so this is next on.
You know what, Neer? I hope part 7 looks good, because you know what they do, right? They always animate horses in 3D.
Yeah,
It's
they
hard to
they
animate a
usually
horse.
do. It is very hard to
And
hand
part
animate
7 is
a
all
horse.
about a horse race.
I mean, it will be interesting. I do wonder what they're going to do with part 7 because, you know, David Productions, obviously, they've been pumping out, because David Productions, they were kind of like the first to really do like really stylized CG, right? With the Battle Tendency opening, right?
Mhm.
And most JoJo OPs do have, CG in them, right? And good CG at that. So I do wonder if David Production will lean more towards CG in the future.
Mhm. Yeah. Anyways, again, thank you, Neer, for helping cover our last series here. Hoseki no Kuni. Definitely, again, if you haven't watched it by now, go watch it for obvious reasons. So, anyways, thank you, Neer. And Dark, what about you? What is your last series to
Fucking
cover?
surprise, bitch! I don't even need to take the picture down.
Yeah.
It's Hoseki no Kuni.
Yes.
Shocker.
Wow, double dipping.
So I frankly at this point in my life, I can safely say mistakenly went to school for 3D animation. Probably shouldn't have done that. But yeah, so when this came out, I was super interested in it, not only because of that, but just in general. It was funny too. When we previewed this, I remember saying hearing like, oh, full CG show, and I'm like, ooh, what the fuck is that gonna be? And then we
Yeah.
had the
It just
PV, and I was
yeah,
like,
you
that
hear it,
looks
and
fucking
it just
insane.
immediately leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
anybody
then
who's
you
watched
see
enough
it, and
series,
you're
you're like,
like,
mm,
whoa.
mm.
Like the PV was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be something, isn't it? And then
Mhm.
sure enough, from episode 1, like it's just everything about the show was masterful. Like even I remember Neer and I were having a conversation when it was coming out about like the uh, just like the color palette of some of the scenes and how much like depth there is, and even just simple, like what would be a more like simple palette. Like there's what was it, the like when the like temple is like iced over or whatever
Yeah.
in like the winter, like that whole sequence looked phenomenal. Um, just everything about the show looked great. They had even like the fluid, like physics they had going looked amazing. And again, like you were saying, the attention to conventional like animation techniques was just something we really hadn't seen.
Mhm.
Especially not to that like level.
Yeah.
It was like every scene was being considered as really the only place I can think of seeing it like in a more anime style thing would have been something like Guilty Gear or like an Arxis
Mhm.
like a 3D fighter that was like for supers or for like the one hit kills and shit, like really stretching what they can do with these models.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
it's
guess
again,
like
it's
this.
an innovation for sure.
Yeah, and just as a pure anecdote, this was a series where at the time I was in my final semester. Yeah, I was in my final semester of college and I don't drive. So the gym was 2.5 miles away, right? And so that was the series I was watching during that semester. And that
Dark,
meant I was
if you
walking two and
drive,
a
why
half
did you still
miles
drive?
and then getting on cardio and watching that while
Mhm.
doing more cardio just because I was like, this is a series that like I want to watch, and this is like a really easy time during the day when I can do it. And like that basically just like got me up and out and fucking literally like, you know what? A 5 mile walk on top of, like 25 minutes of cardio today doesn't sound so bad. Um But yeah, just like I think the only other series as of late that's made me feel even remotely close was something like Spider-Verse. Like
Mhm.
this, I would say, is on, more important to the anime industry. But on that level of like, these are people who are like masters of this craft, and
Right.
not just not using this as a crutch, using it like showing us what you can do with these tools instead of, well, I mean, I guess technically as a crutch you could say that's the same thing, but showing what you can do with this style of animation that 2D can't quite capture,
Right, exactly. Like they have their
especially in
edge.
motion.
They have their edge. Yeah. It's not just like, oh, we're trying to catch up to 2D. It's more
Yeah,
like, oh,
or like this
we
isn't,
can make
this isn't like,
our own
oh, it's
style.
caught up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this
Yeah.
is doing something that literally can only be done in this style.
Yeah, exactly. Which is very valuable because then you can sell that edge. You can be like, okay, well, we have our art style that we can promote and sell, right? So yeah. Again, I think um, compliments about Hosuke no Kuni. We can go all day on this, but no doubt that this is a landmark series, and I do not say that lightly. A landmark series in
One
the
day
anime industry.
we'll get a season 2 when furries want to start having sex with rocks. So
Yeah.
hold out on hope,
Beastar
boys.
Hoseki no Kuni collab, or it's gonna be like
Yeah.
Isekai Quartet or whatever, where they have the chibis. But yeah, anyways, thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, Toast. What is what is the last series you have for us?
Well, now that Dark put up the wrong picture, I'm gonna change my vote.
What is
Yeah,
it?
you're not allowed to because I already put up the picture again. So
My last pick was obviously gonna be Data Life because
yeah.
Data Life's pretty cool. All right, it's the one series that I've been keeping tabs on for forever, and it has the best character of all time, and it
Are
will
you
never
actually
change.
switching the data live?
But when I thought about it,
Okay.
I have
Gave it
there's
a
a
second thought.
there's a series that I've been following since 2007. That's
Since
kinda
the dawn of time.
since the dawn of its inception. I've been been a fan of.
Uh-huh.
Kinda. Just a little
Kinda.
bit.
It's basically the driving force behind every anime-based decision I've ever made past that point and
Okay.
will ever make until something comes out that's better. So far, nothing has come out that's better.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking about, I guess, if you've never heard of it, it's called Fate Stay Night.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's about it.
Well, yeah.
It,
Fate
it's
And,
li-
and
it's
what does Fate Stay Night mean?
I don't know. I, I well, I don't know what fate
I don't
means
think
or
even
stay
Nasu
the
thought
night.
that far, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much
There's a
explanation
lot to
for.
talk about with fate and by extension, but not really because it's also included. I say fate, but I'm also including basically the entire Nasu-verse in this. I guess I've never been so invested in some sort of a Marvel Cinematic Universe in a way as I'm invested in the Nasu-verse.
Yeah, I mean, the
'Cause,
Nosferatu definitely has a magical charm towards many people. So
many? What do you mean many? No one's heard of Fate.
that's
Like
it's an imaginary.
back in 2007 or whenever this came. When did the Dean anime come out?
Was in 2007.
Was it
I think it was 07 or 06, wasn't it?
2006? All right. When did the first VN come out? 2004.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 18 years. She's legal.
Jeez. Yeah,
It is legal.
2006,
2004, but I
2004,
watched it.
that's when the Nanoha anime came out, and 2006 is Haruhi. So,
Nanoha was another pick for Maya, but that would have been it wouldn't have been as egregious or as honest as Fate has been for me, really, because
so you'd say Fate, like going through Fate Stay Night in
it's
specific.
literally the
Yeah.
driving force behind like everything, right? For me, really,
Mm-hmm.
like everything. I was like, oh, is this similar to Fate? No, 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 thanks. Really,
Well, I mean, it's definitely
the
understandable. Yeah.
the original anime itself is not that special, is what I'm saying. Well, I mean, it's
Did you go
very
read the visual novel right after you saw the end?
yes,
Saw the end. Okay.
yes. I've waited for what is it? Who's this translation team? Let me boot it up. It was not Type Moon Scanlations, right? It was a Suki. Do I really
I don't even remember. It was so long ago. Check VNDB, probably.
for the translations? No, there was a Neer.
No,
Who
I
are
meant
the
for the
official
information for the translation team. Check VNDB. But
No, what's
yeah,
the team called? What's the team called? Type Moon? No.
yeah,
Mirror
but the
Moon,
act.
right?
What?
Mirror Moon, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Mirror Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this was the first time I've even before Clannad was when I was interested in downloading a VN. Fate was
Mhm.
the very first VN I was interested in that I downloaded.
I think
So
to be honest, like outside of Japan, I think for Japan, most people were kind of centered around the whole like sort of trinity of like dating sims and like the initial like visual like novels and stuff like that. But in terms of like outside of Japan, I think most people's real knowledge, like consciousness of visual novels, wasn't even Clannad or like Kanan or Air or like the Key Studio stuff. Although
Yeah, it
I
was
think
Katawa
that sort
Shoujo.
of yeah, Katawa
True.
Shoujo, Doki Doki, Literature Club, right? Inekapara, yeah, the classics.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think most people's like conscious idea of like, oh, there's a game behind this anime, or like there's a game that's like an anime kind of question mark. I think most people kind of initially came around to that realization with Fate or
I'm gonna say
or
no.
Tsukihime.
I'm gonna say no, not Fate.
Really?
No, I'm gonna say a more accessible one would have to be Galaxy Angel. That also came out
Galaxy
on
Angel?
that's old as shit too. 2002.
Well, I meant
To be
like
fair,
when
Spire,
you
no one. Fate was not popular when it first came out
well,
originally.
no, I'm not talking about like when it first came out. I'm talking about like the later influence, like when we see now, like when we just like talk to people, not on the street maybe, but it's like if we had talked to like people in like an anime convention in the years after Fate, right? And up to now, right? A lot of people would be like, oh, like a visual novel or something like that. Like, let's say, like, what was your first visual novel or something like that, right? I think a lot slash most people's stuff would be, if you erase like the whole like Doki Doki Literature Club meme stuff, it would be like Fate,
I'm
right,
gonna
or
have to
Tsukihime.
disagree. It's not Fate. Fate only became popular after Blade Works. Even then,
No.
those people don't really want read the VN. The first VN that most
Fate Zero,
hey,
bro.
yeah, true. You got me there. Fate Zero. You have to
Yeah, Fate
understand,
Zero.
Spire. Fate, the original Fate Stay Night anime by Dean was pretty average-ish. It's being saved by that awesome Kenji Kawai soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, the Dean's, the Dean Fate anime soundtrack is so, it's like, I genuinely think it's better than anything Ufotable put out. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Like, and like the Dean, again, I said it before, the Dean like adaptation, I think it tries a lot harder than any other adaptation to really recreate, like genuinely recreate like the actual like CGs and put them in motion,
Mm.
which is very
And-
commendable, I think.
And to be fair, the saber route is not exactly the most interesting route.
No, unfortunately, with the fucking genius writer that Nasu is, the Fate route, which is Saber's route, is like 80% fucking info dump on like how the world actually works.
Well, that's because
And-
it's like the first sort of route that
It
you
is
have
the
to
first
get
route
it
you
is-
have to
it's-
clear
yeah.
before you get to
And
the
then-
boss.
it's
yeah,
the
and
first
then the
route.
other sort of quote unquote fun routes, right? In terms of
In terms of like
receptors, right?
actual
Yeah.
like characterization and like character
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interactions and
And also
crazy shit
variance
happening.
in terms of like what happens afterwards,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like
a lot of people have sort of really been, I think even Ayako Kawasumi herself has been advocating for like a readaptation and sort of a
I would
semi-
love a read adaptation.
semi rewrite of the Fate
reboot
route,
almost.
which
Yeah,
I
that'd be really interesting.
I would love. I would absolutely adore that so
I
much.
think-
I think it would be interesting to see a because again, like as we keep kind of alluding to, right? It's more like Sabers, Stay Night is a setup, and then Unlimited Blade Works is like a cool variant of it, and then Heaven's Feel is the true end, sort of like everything's kind of coming crashing down, right? And that's the whole thing. But it's like
Heaven's Feel is the climax for sure.
yeah. Sort of like but it would be interesting, although I'm not sure how receptible somebody like Nas would be to it, but it's like it would be interesting to see that visual novel in a more standard visual novel format where it's like you have the common route and then you have it sort of diverging into like 3 routes and
That's
all of these
literally
3 routes.
That's literally how they did it in the anime. It starts off on one day and then it
Yeah.
diverges into the actual 3 animes and routes.
Yeah, I meant in the visual novel. In the visual novel,
I
it
don't
would be
think that's
interesting to-
I don't think that's possible to do because
I think they could do it. It's
it would
tricky. It's trickier with Heaven's Feel because Heaven's Feel is like
Yeah,
different
yeah, that's-
from the
that's fine.
onset.
Yeah.
But Fate and UBW are like they're pretty similar up until the like initial divergence. So they could probably do something.
but I don't
maybe-
think they need to.
They don't
just need to
know.
remake the Saber
Yeah.
route.
I was just
I do
like
think-
putting on
I
it
do- I
just
do
because
think-
based off like again like what you know what you guys just talked about, how it's like it would be interesting if like the Saber route was like kind of rehashed in a way.
Yeah, I
But,
mean,
yeah.
I know Nasu has sort of entertained the idea. Again, there are a lot of people like within, like people working on Fate like as a project that have advocated
Mhm.
for like a sort of readaptation and a potential rewrite of the Fate route, which would be like a dream come true for me.
It'd be
We were
very cool.
supposed to get a Saber route, but they're like, let's do UBW instead, even though
Yeah.
there was a movie.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know
mean,
where I'm going with this,
yeah.
but
I
It'd
don't
be
know.
cool. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, I don't know. I'm going to just like Fate route's cool and all. Dean is cool, I guess. But what I think I should go more in depth to is this is the first time been I've been enthralled by a universe that a creator
Uh-huh.
has made. Unless you
Hmm.
want to count Harry Potter, but no one's gonna count Harry Potter. I got all the books, but
Harry Potter
so what?
anime. Yeah. It's like, but yeah. No,
Uh,
I completely
Like
understand.
the
completely.
systems that dude came up with. I guess his
Mhm.
writing was pretty cool too, or maybe that's
Mhm.
because of how Mirror Moon made it. I don't know. It was pretty raw and visceral in a way. Like no other VN or anime that I've watched and or read was like even comparable to this. Like, wow, this is the real deal kind of stuff. Where has this been all my life? Like,
Mhm.
oh, it's never been made yet. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't play Grand Order, but even now, I'll read the wiki, sure. I'll
But yeah,
read the
no,
wiki
I
and
mean,
watch side stories. Like, I don't. You know what? I don't like where Grand Order's going. Like, I would have preferred another, I don't know, Fate VN, like a good one. And
I mean, the
side
issue
stories
with
are
Grand
fun.
Order right now is it's so. I hate to use the word grand.
I I mean,
Like
I
it's
heard the stories are like the story's good, but I
the
don't want
story
it
is good. The story is
I
very
don't want it to
good,
be
but it's
turned into a
not.
gotcha.
It's like the issue is Fate Stay Night, right? Started off as it's basically a battle royale, right? It's between the seven masters, and it's contained within the single city, right? But Fate Grand Order has gotten to the point where, there is no more Holy Grail War. It's not about that. Like you're literally wiping out entire timelines, to like save the our timeline from like an alien threat, and it's like it's so beyond the scope. Like the stories are good, they're very good, but it's like it's departed so far from what the series like originally was that it's really hard not to sort of pine for like just another visit to the roots, right? um
Mhm.
I just wish. I mean, the Fate is cool and all, but I would like more works within the not like the Nasuverse. Like you're mentioning like an alien threat. Is this related to Archetype Earth and Archetype the other archetypes, or is this related to what Black Barrel, whatever that was again?
um
Because
it is I believe it is somewhat related to Notes and Black Barrel. Like there are references to that within the Fate Grand Order story.
that's good.
So it is tied in. But yeah, like it is nice to see. It would be nice to see another like smaller scale story like Mahoyo or something.
Well, that is getting
Um,
a what is it?
yeah, I
Movies?
mean
I'll
that's
take
getting
that.
it's getting a movie trilogy, I believe, which is nice. And obviously the game is getting uh re-released, remade with like voice acting or whatever now. So
Which one?
Mahoyo,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
So obviously, Nasu himself has talked about wanting to sort of move on from FGO. Like,
Good.
obviously, FGO is going to keep going for a long fucking time, but I believe Nasu himself is sort of separating himself from the project a bit more now to work on other shit, which is nice. But yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm not obviously
And
surprised at all.
what do I mean? What Kara no Kyokai? Pretty good, right? Pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what else to say other than Fate has ruined my life forever,
In a
and
good way, I'm
I don't
sure.
think there's gonna be anything as good as it from now until I die.
Yeah. But yeah,
Maybe
obviously not.
maybe a Data Life spin-off where after story where Shido and Toka do stuff. I'll pay attention to that, but it's not a exaggeration when I say my life is tied to Fate slash Nazi stuff from now on. Because
Mhm.
I'm ride or die with the Nasuverse timeline. I mean, you
Yeah.
hit me with those movies, I'll watch them in theaters. I'll
Mhm.
buy the games if they're good. I I'll
Yeah.
shy away from Grand Order because it's gotcha, but I'll do the other stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
god damn you, Nasu.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not
And
surprised at all
Fate,
that,
well, even like Fate, what is it? Last Encore is a shit show, but I'm still gonna give it my anime of the year, no doubt.
Mhm.
I
Like,
don't know
do
why,
I have a
bro.
choice?
You
No,
do,
really.
you do.
No.
You got to do, but yeah.
I mean,
Anyways,
I like Neer. I like Nero. She's a way more interesting character than regular Saber is. Better personality.
I'm gonna fucking fight you over that.
Exactly.
all right,
That's why we'll
I want
settle
to,
it.
I do want to wrap this up, but
Yeah,
But
especially
yes.
because Mordred is the best one.
Yeah,
all
she's so
right, all
fast,
right,
she
all
doesn't
right,
even
all
move,
right,
bro.
all right,
I mean, what are my
all
final
right.
thoughts? Hit me up with that Hatsukai no Yaru because I'm still gonna
Yeah.
say that is the best animated in quotes VN that I've seen in a long time.
We
Yeah, I
are
mean
all one for
Type Moon's like VN production is just, I mean, they're unmatched, right? because they've got
Mm,
all the money in the world. So
yeah.
I mean, I'd
Yeah.
love to see what is it? What is that one scene in the amusement park? What's it called?
in what?
The one scene in the amusement park in Mahotsukai no Yora where she shoots the meteor.
Oh,
What is that called?
I don't know.
Because that's probably one of my favorite parts.
My favorite's easily the fight with Beowulf with
That's
just
good.
a
That's not
single
bad.
punch.
Aozaki Aoko versus Flat Snark, Black Light Starbow. That scene's fantastic.
Yeah, that seems good.
And it's like, when was it made? 2011, right? This is freaking old.
2011, 2012, something like that.
It's like, damn, why did it take this long to make it? I know you got, I mean, I guess you were busy with the other stuff, but
Yeah.
this is fantastic. You know what, Spire? Let's do a challenge. Hit me up with a VN that looks better than this. I bet you can.
Well, I mean, I think
Probably
that
not.
I think
And
that
I
definitely
win.
comes.
But yeah,
But yeah.
I
Any,
love Fate. The One Piece is real.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I do want to wrap up
Yeah.
on a serious note, but because we can go about Fate all day, and I don't want to do that.
Why
But
not?
Yeah, let's go.
very
I'm
dangerous
like I
rabbit
said,
hole to
I'm
fall
We
down.
should not. We should not
I'm
do
ride
that.
or die.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not surprised at all, and obviously it's a very good pick for not just affecting how Toast has viewed anime up until from when he first read through this or slash watched this up to present day, but obviously many other people as well. It's been an influence on so many people, um, you know, just as a landmark in and of itself. So again, thank you, Toast, for telling us about your third and I believe one of your most personal series, Fate. And with
Probably is the
that,
most important series in my life for
yeah,
even past the other stuff.
yeah. And with that, we are pretty much done. I think we covered all that, we were going to, and we are, we are 3 hours in, so I do want to wrap up real quick.
Yeah.
Again, I'm really glad that we did go through this because, I think it really did show kind of like a different side and not just like the one where oh, Tosa is talking about in isekai, or
Do
I'm
you want me
talking
to talk
about
about
just like some
isekai?
slice.
Because I could talk about
Oh, I don't
isekai.
want to talk
No,
about
that's
isekai
okay.
right now.
That's okay.
Yeah, or like I'm talking about some slice of life stuff, and it kind of showed us sort of our backgrounds, right? Like where we come from, like what our thoughts are when we're heading into this, when we're watching anime, when we're talking about what anime we want to or don't want to watch, right? So I think it was a really good discussion that we had here. So thank you guys all for coming here. Obviously, near Toast Dark, as well as all the viewers out there. Next week, we are going to have a Cyberpunk Anime spoiler cast. So we're going to round up all the goons here all again, and we're just going to talk about a little bit about how we feel about that series, and if Dark's uh, trepidation about covering the series was any indication that your next week is gonna be interesting in terms of coverage. So watch out for that. So we're gonna do next week the spoiler cast for CPR, and then after that week we're gonna jump right into the fall 2022 anime season. So look forward to that as well. So if you do like what we do every other Saturday, we stream our podcast recording live at twitch.tv/4PlayAnimecast, with the numeral 4, although we might be moving to YouTube in the future, so who knows? This might be outdated by the time we hit the next episode. Who knows? Twitch might just burn in fire. But yeah, so we record our podcast here, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese animation media, anime, manga, light novels, visual novels, web novels, so much more. So check us out here on YouTube as well. We have YouTube VODs also with our podcast highlights. So, watch it in whatever format you desire. So on top of that, we have our social media updates on Facebook for PlayAnimecast and on Twitter at 4PPAnimecast, all with the numeral 4. So check us out here, check us out there. And as always, we'll see you next time.